Hey, what's happening, family? It's your man Mark Black. You know what time it is. Welcome to Sucka-Free Saturday. First of all, I want to thank everybody who showed up so far, who's going to show up. I have an announcement to make. Before I go, there's always information and stuff, that you could check out and things like that. If you think my work's important or supporting things, there's links to do that too as well. I'm gonna keep that short. Um, the announcement is that I was doing a series of broadcasts on the different areas of people activity, and I'm gonna be quite frank with you, fam. I'm done with it. I've watched viewership on each of those broadcasts go down. Like nobody's watching it, nobody gives a shit, and that's fair enough, right? Um, I'm just one cat, right? I don't expect to be seen as an authority on anything. I don't consider myself to be, my word to be the end all be all on any particular subject, right? So, it was a good opportunity for me to kind of lay out some thoughts on the various subjects, the various areas of human activity. I'll wrap up before we get into today's broadcast. A synopsis of what I was going to talk about in the last three areas of human activity, which was religion, sex, and war. I've done multiple broadcasts where I've studied, or where I should say that I've talked about like religion. Wait, before we even get into that, let's do the greetings. Sister Alma's in the house, Brother Lionel's in the house, Jason, I'm sorry, Brother John is in the house. Namaste. The cool man, what's good, fam? Yeah, I haven't broadcasted in a couple of weeks. To be quite honest, the cool man, I just didn't feel like it. I feel fine, like health wise. Oh, you know what? That's something else to share with y'all. So I've been doing some stuff in the background, kind of to take care of my health and things like that. I suspected that I had an issue that was ongoing due to some vitamin deficiencies. Well, I've been taking vitamins regularly, a multivitamin among others, for a little over a month now. And the issues that I was having with fatigue, muscle spasms, all that other stuff, I'm provisionally going to say that it appears to be resolved. I feel just as good as I have in a few years. And so I'm really happy about that, because that opens up a lot of horizons that previously seemed like they were shut off to me before, right? But to get into, the synopsis, I've done many broadcasts on religion. I've talked about how I believe that religion should be seen more as a technology, a means by which we compensate for actual or perceived lack, right, in any given area of human activity. Miss Denny's in the house. Welcome, Miss Denny. Right. So I'm not going to do another whole broadcast about religion again. Just refer back to my previous videos where I discussed theology, a new black theology of liberation, where I discussed the need to embrace everybody's spiritual understanding, or whatever the case may be. You know what I'm saying? As the means or a tool by which they gain internal understanding on themselves, right? And so on and so forth. As far as sex and white supremacy goes, I don't have shit to say on it. I'm legit. That was the one video where I wasn't really going to talk about much at all, because first of all, we understand objectification, right? Fetishization, where black people are treated by the greater society at large not as sexual persons, but as sexual objects. That always has been an issue of note, and many people have discussed the need for us to value ourselves in a sexual manner that breeds respect, breeds dignity, that puts sexual activity on a proper level, right? There's biological aspects of it, social aspects of it, and so on and so forth. But I wasn't really going to say much on that. And as far as war goes, I've discussed so many times what I feel that defense of our people in war essentially should look like, that I would be talking again until I'm blue in the face. I believe that we not only have the right to self-defense and collective defense of our tribe, but we also have a responsibility to. And to the extent that we don't exercise our responsibility to protect each other, to protect ourselves, we're going to continue to be victimized. You just saw the young brother get killed up in Minnesota, right? While the Derek Chauvin case is going on, there's the little young, I think he's a Hispanic boy that got killed in Chicago, right? The cops is going to be visiting violence on everybody. And until we decide that we've had enough and we're willing to bleed them and or be bled if it's required in order to ensure that justice obtains, that protection and peace and safety obtains, we will continue to face what we face, right? Frederick Douglass said that find out what injustices a people will quietly submit to, and you will know the measure of the injustices visited upon them. And those injustices will be visited upon them until countered with words or blows or both. Like, that hasn't changed, and it won't change, right? We can sit here and malign the characters of brothers and sisters that do fight back against the system in a physical fashion, in a fashion, with arms and fisticuffs and war. But those are the ones who saw clearly that this system understands one thing: fear and force, like violence. We will get the justice we take, no more, no less. So there, y'all won't have to sit for 2 hours or better and be subjected to my insights on religion, sex, and war. I just gave you a synopsis of what those 3 videos would have been about. That series is over, all right? I'm not going to waste my time, talking to a few when I know that there's other stuff that I could be discussing. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to waste your time, and I'm going to waste mine. Shout out to Brother Agent Smith, by the way. Shout out to my brother, my dear esteemed brother, Blackman 903. What it do, fam? Sister Sherry's in the house. Mwah, 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 mwah. Love you, sis. Yeah, it's been a minute. Black man, I was just saying, particularly the reason why it's been a couple of broadcasts, couple of weekends, I just didn't feel like coming on here. Part of what I'm going to address today actually lays out why. I've been doing a lot of thinking lately, fam. A lot of thinking, right? There are times in my life where I just feel the need to introspect. Right, where I just feel the need to kind of go within and just examine what I see around me, what's going on in the world, what's going on in me, and so on and so forth. And that's what I've been doing the last couple of weeks, among other things. I've been living my life too. For example, for those of you who don't follow me on Twitter, so you wouldn't know, I've got the first vaccination for the coronavirus, right? For the Rona. I received the Pfizer shot on the 7th of April. And as you can see, I'm not dead. Thank goodness, right? I had very, very few, if any, side effects, right? I did have a bit of a headache. I had a little bit of fatigue. I was feeling a little warm. My arm was definitely sore. Now, that went on for about a day or so. The side effects did. Arm soreness lasted about 3 days. I knew that those weren't side effects. Those are actually the effects you expect to see when your immune system ramps up, right? So I was not scared, startled, worried, afraid, anything like that, right? After I received the vaccination, I go on social media a lot, right? In order to be able to talk to y'all about various subjects. And don't worry, I'm gonna open up the lines today. We're gonna today talk about any topic truly, right? I have what I want to say today, but you don't have to address what I'm talking about when you call in. But I am going to open up the line, right? By the way, congratulations, Sister Sherry. Glad you did. I've done a lot of thinking. I go on social media because I have to stay informed. What's good, Cash? Welcome to the broadcast. And I'm seeing all this stuff surrounding various topics, right? People are talking about the vaccinations. People are talking about this, that, and the third. As a matter of fact, I even saw today where some people were talking about the Pentagon addressing UFOs, right? People talk about a lot of different things. I've had conversations with my family. For example, I spoke with my mother. And my mother is 67. She just turned 67, as a matter of fact, on the 13th. Happy birthday again to you, little fat. And we talked about, vaccinations because she asked me about it. I'm not the dude to really press when it comes to that sort of thing or whatever. But, yeah, she asked me about it. So I gave her the information that I felt was salient, that I felt had validity, soundness to it, right? It gave her statistics, numbers, etc. And my mother made it clear that she will not be taking the vaccine either. And not only will she not be taking this vaccine, but any other vaccine subsequent to this one. So any future vaccinations, my mother will not be taking. Now, to put this into perspective, my mother basically came out as a complete anti-vaxxer. Meanwhile, all three of her children, well, two now because my brother's passed away, but all three of us were vaccinated like crazy when we was kids. We all got diphtheria, the DPT vaccine, diphtheria, pertussis tetanus. We all received MMR. Every vaccine that was fucking required or even thought to be required, we all three were vaccinated. But now she's got an issue with vaccines. Won't lie, that was hard to hear. But again, it's her choice, right? Brother Blackman said he's not taking it. Again, his choice, right? Don't worry, I've had other people who I esteem highly recently tell me that they subsequently are not taking it either. And so it got me to thinking. It got me to thinking about how it is that we gauge risk, how it is that we make sense of the world and all of this and that and the third. And it became very clear to me that for many of us, we look at the world in a way that seems to make sense, and then we stop. I don't know if that makes any sense, right? Like, it's like once we think we have the answers, we stop looking for the truth. And it's not a black thing. So don't think that today's broadcast is going to be me shitting on our people. The title of the broadcast, Miss Kawami, that is demonstrably false. Like, I respect you highly, but misinformation about jellyfish DNA in the COVID vaccine, no. That's complete bullshit. But again, I understand. I get it. Right? I get where this idea of doing something to the vaccine, this and the third, where that's coming from. Right? Because if you really see how over time we have a tendency to operate under certain assumptions, under certain ideas, under certain effects of the mind, none of the stuff that people say like that is shocking. or at least it shouldn't be shocking, right? No, Ms. Kwame, it is not true. Present your evidence that any of the vaccines out there contain jellyfish DNA. And I'm talking about reputable, I'm talking about expert sources of information, right? Not just some article that you pulled from some website somewhere. I want you to show me a complete breakdown of the gene sequencing or whatever the case may be that show clearly that they use pieces of jellyfish DNA in a damn vaccine. I'm not saying that you're a bad person, but that is bullshit misinformation. It just is. And I'm sorry that perhaps you were convinced of the veracity of that information, but it is demonstrably false. Here's the thing that I would like for you to ask yourself, Ms. Kwame. Let's say that there is jellyfish DNA in the coronavirus vaccines, in any of them. Let's grant what you're saying as true. Okay? We'll grant it's true. So what then do you believe is the purpose of putting jellyfish DNA in a coronavirus vaccine? Right? Let's say that you're right. Let's say that we can clearly find out after a clear chain of research that jellyfish DNA is in the coronavirus vaccine. What's the purpose? What purpose would it serve to put jellyfish DNA in the coronavirus vaccine? Based off of your understanding, your research, right? There's a scientist that I respect highly. He's passed on now, right? Many of you actually are familiar with him. He's one of the greatest science communicators we've had in modern day time. You know, when I say science communicators, I'm talking about people like Neil deGrasse Tyson. You know, people like Michio Kaku, things like that, right? People who communicate science and scientific principles to, you know, lay people like myself in a way that's accessible, that makes sense, and so on and so forth. This man, Carl Sagan, was a pretty dope dude. First of all, he was a working scientist, right? He had published many scientific papers. So he was a working scientist. But he also had a way of communicating that really grabbed you, right? You know, science communication in the world, but specifically in America, can be rather dry at times, right? Like when people start talking about the coronavirus, for example, people will glom onto the stories that say 5,800 people have been infected with the coronavirus since vaccination, right? That headline will grab everybody and they'll go, holy shit, 5,800 people, they got the vaccine and they still got the coronavirus? Holy shit. But we have in this country so far millions of Americans. I'm talking about millions of Americans that have either had the first of the 2 shots for the mRNA vaccines, or we've had almost 7 million Americans take the J&J vaccine, right? The Johnson & Johnson vaccine. But to tell everybody just the general numbers of people that have taken the vaccine, that doesn't get clicks. That doesn't get views. Putting up a news article that says that the Pentagon acknowledges, you know, these UFO videos, right? Okay. That's going to get clicks. That's going to get eyeballs. That's exciting. A news article that talks about the fact that unidentified flying objects by definition means we don't know what they are and therefore cannot be thus aliens. Well, that's not as exciting, is it? That doesn't make any, that doesn't make people like jump in and grab onto a story. You know what I'm saying? So you have a combination in this society of a lack of education around science and its principles. And you also have the advent of sensationalism in the media as opposed to just simply giving information. You also have a society that wants the quick fix. They don't want to actually have to do study and research on everything to become an informed populace. What they want is to click on whatever news source they choose, get the dose they need, and keep it pushing. Many of us have abdicated our right to think, to examine information. Many of us are not even certain how to evaluate all the information that's out there. By the way, shout out to Unsunken One and shout out to Absolutely Nobody. Welcome to the broadcast, fam. But again, this isn't a black thing. However, I will talk about how do we as black people live in such a demon-haunted world. I chose that title for this broadcast for a reason. One of the last books that Carl Sagan published before his death was titled The Demon-Haunted World, where he talked about how we all believed that we have all these answers for different things, right? We all think we understand so much. But most of what we think we understand is simply creations of our own mind that are not in any way supported by evidence, by reality, and so on and so forth. He wrote this book back in the late 80s, before the advent of the internet. If Carl Sagan was alive today, he would look at the internet and shake his damn head and go, it sucks to be right all the time. Because we have rampant misinformation, conspiracy theory, entire websites dedicated to confirming what you already believe, that cater to your confirmation bias. He would be floored, as I am. Black man, I get it. I'm not asking you to trust government or trust science. What I'm asking you to do is use your mind. Simple as that, right? Trust isn't even a factor in this particular matter, right? When I first heard about, I'm sharing a lot of personal stuff today before I open up the lines and let y'all talk, because I want to hear from y'all. Trust me, I want to hear everything from you. We're not going to be doing no fighting. I want to hear from you. I want to hear what you can think, what you're thinking about and this, that, and the third. So I'm going to share my personal stuff with you today. When I first heard that they were looking to develop vaccines for SARS-CoV-2, right? The virus that causes COVID-19 disease. Even though at the time I struggled with health issues and this, that, and the third, I was actually looking to sign up to be a part of the phase trials. That's right. Your man Mark Black, your brother and one who loves you, was looking to volunteer to participate in the experimentation. Because you have people that are right now talking about we're all being experimented on. No, we're not. The experimentation of the virus has already happened. By the way, shout out to my beloved brother, Big Unk. I see you, fam. What's good? The phase trials was when the experimentation occurred. And I tried to volunteer for the phase trials. And I know you're probably thinking, this nigga Mark Buckley, you was just gonna let them inject you with some shit you didn't even know could hurt you or cause you problems or pain or suffering? Yes, I was. Do you want to know why I was trying to volunteer for the phase trials? Because I am perfectly well aware of the long and unholy history of science and medical care as directed toward my people. I'm familiar with the development of gynecology and how the tools like the speculum and other tools were used on slaves, our ancestresses. I'm familiar with the Tuskegee study. It wasn't an experiment, fam. They didn't inject these brothers with syphilis. People can't even get their misinformation correct. What happened in the Tuskegee situation wasn't that some nurses were going around injecting brothers and sisters with syphilis. No. What happened was these men caught syphilis and were not treated properly. They were not given a treatment for it so that they could track the development of the symptoms with beginning, middle, and end stage syphilis infection. Bad enough. Don't get me wrong. Either way is shit. I totally get it. Either way is fucked up. But the truth itself is bad enough. We don't need to make it seem like that they was running all over the South injecting brothers with this shit just to get them sick of this and the third. No, they just simply refused to treat them and watched them die. Watched them infect their family members, their wives, girlfriends, partners. Now, if knowing all of that, why then would I want to volunteer for what was then an experimental vaccine? Because, fam, to be quite frank, I'm tired of everybody getting the best of what medicine has to offer being developed for them and never having to account for us. That's why I volunteered. I volunteered. I stepped up. I wasn't accepted, but I tried to get in on the phase trials because I got tired of every time there's a major health incident of any type, my people are always the ones fucking left behind. Either great treatments are developed that we never get to take advantage of, or they come up with shit but they don't know enough about us and this, that, and the third in order to say truly how it's going to affect us. And the cycle has to be broken somewhere. Here I am, your brother, who says that he loves you in every broadcast. And here's an opportunity for me to help further the advancement of science that could prove to be a game changer for the treatment of illnesses for ailments and illnesses in my people. Why the fuck wouldn't I step up? Why wouldn't I volunteer? And believe it or not, I get looked at crazy because I actually stood up. We complain that we don't get adequate health care, that we don't know what they're putting in this and don't put in that. But when do we ever participate in the process? I even saw black people accusing the few black scientists. Thank you, Jasmine.
Can't stay long. Just stopping by to drop some love. Good to see you back. Had my first vac the other day too. I was worried C0 vid worries me more though.
Facts. Don't worry. We're going to talk about that today too. I want to be a part of the solution. I never, ever want to bring you problems, fam, where I'm not a part of the solution. You got folk out here who are talking about these vaccines, who smoke, drink alcohol. By the way, alcohol causes liver trouble, can cause cancer, can cause a whole host of issues. The weed you like to smoke has more tar in it than tobacco does, can cause lung cancer, cause all sorts of problems, right? All this shit, the foods you eat and the choices you make. These same people talking about, oh man, I'm not taking that vaccine, will go out and hump 50 people in a year raw dog, knowing that we live in an ongoing pandemic, HIV. Or did you guys forget about that one? Oh wait, I'm sorry, I forgot. There's a lot of black people that don't believe that HIV is a real thing. We suffer from hypertension, a heart disease, asthma, and a whole range of other things. And yet, every time there's an opportunity to push the boundaries of medicine, to create new opportunities for treatments, for cures even, where are our people to step up and say, we want our part of the pie? They use our tax dollars to fund these programs. When Operation Warp Speed under the Trump administration gave billions of dollars to the pharmaceutical companies, that was your money too. You want to talk about how strange it is the way we think? The same people that praised Donald Trump, I'm not talking about most of us now, because most of us are not Republicans, but the same people that have praised Donald Trump through the roof, MAGA to the high heavens, right? Who were all behind Operation Warp Speed when Donald Trump threw billions of dollars at Pfizer, BioNTech, AstraZeneca, Johnson & Johnson, and pretty much anybody who said they might have a chance at developing a vaccine. The Trump administration threw money at them. Those same folk now, to the tune of somewhere around 45%, are saying, I'm not taking the vaccine. The vaccine that your president, that you thought, you trusted, that you respected, threw all of the government's money behind, now you won't get behind it because it's been developed too quickly. Fam, I had problems myself before the vaccines came out, right? I thought, and I'm being 100% straight up with y'all, fam, I thought they would develop a vaccine, but I thought we wouldn't see a vaccine for the coronavirus, for SARS-CoV-2 until like 2023. And this is what's based off of, what I understood of the science and shit at the time. You feel me? So when we had a vaccine in less than a year, I'm not gonna lie, I was concerned my damn self. The cool man said, you have racist pharmaceutical companies developing vaccines and I'm supposed to believe in what they produce. Not happening. You're assuming facts, not in evidence. Pharmaceutical companies ain't racist, fam. Pharmaceutical companies are just companies. They're just trying to get your bread. Show me evidence otherwise. Show me evidence that pharmaceutical companies are anything like any other company in this country. All these companies really care about is your money. They don't have board meetings where they sit there and say, okay, now we've got this new drug coming out that I just know is going to end the niggas. No. To be fair, you're not even worth the investment to do it. Because even if they wanted to come up with a drug that would just wipe out black people, they still have to invest R&D in it. They still have to invest resources and money in it. You make up 13% of the population of the United States of America. You think Big Pharma's sitting around looking for opportunities to just do you in when they can still make money off of you in a myriad of ways while you live 50, 60, 70 years? No. They're corporations just like the rest of these capitalist bastards. Now, if you got a problem with capitalism, I share your same fucking problems. But to pretend that they're sitting around plotting on ways to decrease the black population and this, that, and the third. Come on, fam. Really? With no evidence? Look, fam, I'm not talking about the fact that you don't hire black people, right? I don't care what you think their attitudes are. I'm talking about, are they any more racist than any other institution in this society? And by the way, we're still here. What does their racism? So let's say, for the sake of argument, the cool man, right, that Big Pharma hates niggas. Well, they're doing a really good goddamn job of not getting rid of us. Big Pharma has all the labs, all the tools, all the funding from the NIH and the WHO and all this and that and the third. And they can't stand niggas. And we still here. Sorry, but if I was Big Pharma, I would feel like I was holding an L. Could it be that our tendency to look at the information that confirms what we already feel and think might be playing a role in how we're viewing the current circumstances? This is not to say that any of the things that have happened to black people previously in the past hasn't happened. That's not to say any of that. Trust me, fam, I'm a history buff and I love black history. There's not an incident that's occurred to our people historically I'm not aware of. I know how we're treated even today when we go into hospitals. But you think that our reticence to get involved in science, technology, engineering, medicine, math, all this other stuff, you think that that is somehow going to save us? That in the midst of upheaval, the only thing that saves black people is just simply withdrawing from the process? From just ducking our heads in the sand and going, la, 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 I can't hear you. I don't trust nothing you white folks is talking about. You know, I can put the lie to the whole COVID conspiracy thing right now with just one statistic. You got white folks that never come into our neighborhoods or our cities for anything, that are invading areas in which we live to get the coronavirus vaccine. That's real talk. White folks that don't have nothing to do with us, that would gladly live their entire fucking lives and never have to see a black head except on their face, are swamping our neighborhoods whenever we get doses so they can get them in their arms. Great racist conspiracy, this one. It's such an effective conspiracy that it's convinced white folks that they need to get the vaccine somehow. This whole coronavirus vaccine thing is so racist that you got Europe in an uproar because one of their best options, the AstraZeneca vaccine, has been put on hold by the EU. There are countries that are actually threatening to override the EU to get the AZ vaccine into their people's arms. Countries like France, countries like Germany, countries like Czechoslovakia. I know white folks that went 300 and 400 miles across state lines because their state was only giving it out to, say, 65 and older and the vulnerable population, right? Who traveled to another state where vaccinations was open to everybody. They jumped in their car and drove 400-500 miles to get one shot. And they're going to have to drive that same distance. Well, until recently, with the change of the rules of the Biden administration, until recently, they were willing to drive that 500-mile trip again to do the same thing. But it's a conspiracy against Negroes. Meanwhile, black folk can't seem to win for losing. The vaccination opportunity is a conspiracy because they're trying to stop black people from breeding, inject us with jellyfish DNA and all this other shit that we come up with. And the coronavirus is disproportionately killing black folk because most of us make up essential workers, the people who absolutely have to keep working in order to keep everything fucking going. We make up the majority of them. Grocery store workers, fast food workers, construction people, maintenance people, security guards. So we can't win for losing. If we continue to operate as the essential workers we are, we run the risk of getting, again, the cool man. You can say you don't believe it and it's propaganda. Provide your evidence. Where's the evidence of this propagandistic push to debunk everything I'm saying? What up, JP, that dude? Let me read your comment. With all due respect, Mark Black, there's just as much white people swarming to get the vaccine as much as white folks who's not having it. Okay. I don't give a shit about white folks. I just use them as an example, fam. But I realized in the last few weeks that this vaccine hesitancy, especially amongst our people, I couldn't give less than a shit about any other people. I'm talking about black folk, is a symptom, a sign of a greater issue. And it has nothing to do with the fact that there is no facts behind our hesitancy for the most part, right? There's no facts. But there is an issue in how it is that we understand the world in which we live. For us Black Americans, we truly live in a demon-haunted world. For us, very often, our point of view lends credence to the edge of the map. That's a reference to old medieval maps. A lot of old medieval maps, old European maps, would have the ocean, and beyond a certain point, it would say something like, "Here there be dragons," because they didn't understand what lied in the areas, beyond that point. So for them, it was dragons, the edge of the earth, it was this, it was that. we, my beloved people, truly live in a demon-haunted world. In a world full of uncertainty. In a world where we're bombarded with information from what appears to be so many different reputable sources, many of which aren't. How is it that we make sense of it all? See, my first inclination, just like most other people's inclination, was to ride down on our people and be like, these niggas, man. What up, Oli 2X? But see, I don't want to continue to cater into that whole anti-black thing. I'm not going to ride down on us. First of all, I don't have the right. There's nothing that my people do that I haven't done. I've engaged in conspiracies and shit. I've only looked at information that confirms my own biases and what I think. I've thought I had the answers and stopped looking. I've done it all. Dr. Black can diagnose your disease because I share the symptoms. So instead, before I open up the lines, because I'll keep this one short for you today, fam, is I want to share with you what Mr. Carl Sagan left us as a legacy, whether you choose to accept it or not, on how we can leave the demon-haunted world. How we can step into the light and not be living in fear, trapped in our own heads, trapped in our own thoughts, our own biases. Let's go to the teaching screen, fam. There was 8 tools that Mr. Sagan suggested in this book, The Demon Haunted World, that I want to share with you today. All right? These are suggestions that he offered. By the way, if you have not read the book, I strongly recommend you do so. Again, The Demon Haunted World, right? Great read. And you will find that it is so, it speaks to the time in which we live. I'll just say that much. But let's go over these bullet points. We're not going to go through all of them. I'm going to go over the main bullet points here at the top. And we're going to touch on a few things down here too as well. The first thing that Dr. Sagan proposed is that whenever we're looking at something, wherever it's possible, there must be an independent confirmation of the facts. Pause. An independent confirmation of the facts. Now, what does that mean, right? That means, fam, that you're likely to get the truth about a circumstance or a situation from somebody who does not have a vested interest one way or the other. Because you'll find, especially nowadays, is people think that the COVID-19 vaccination, anti-vax thing is new. No, there's been anti-vaxxers in America around for quite some time. Matter of fact, the first case of anti-vaccination was way back in the day when they were first inoculating people for smallpox. Anti-vaccination has been an ongoing thing in the United States. So this debate about whether to vaccinate from COVID-19 disease or not is nothing new. But many times, the people that come to you with information are wanting you to listen to them, and they have a vested interest in you doing so. Right? I'll give you a case in point. There's a very famous group of anti-vaxxers that has at its head Robert F. Kennedy Jr. You know, the son of Robert F. Kennedy, he's thrown his lot behind the anti-vaccination movement. And they, in the time of the internet, have become quite good at posting videos, infographics. Thank you, Sister Sherry, by the way. Actually, Unsunken One, let's address that. Big Pharma and world governments are vested shareholders. How can they be an impartial source? Didn't ask you to trust Big Pharma. Didn't ask you to trust the world's governments. Because there's a source of information that you can trust. The individual scientists working on different shit. You know, fam, science has its issues. And that's for damn sure. If you don't think science doesn't have its issues, you've never heard of phrenology. You never heard of scientific racism. Science has had and will continue to have its issues. But the scientific area of action is one of which that if you use the right tools, it doesn't matter what people's agendas are. You can still get the information that you need. Let me say that again. Are there people that do science that are antithetical to black people's interests? Yep. But science is a process of getting information. And those people that are antithetical to our interests do not have a monopoly on science. So if you utilize the same procedures, you can always get the information you need. It's one of the good things, actually, about science. But I'll go to point number 2. Encourage substantive debate on the evidence by knowledgeable proponents of all points of view. Pause. Dr. Sagan suggests that we should have substantive debate on the evidence. So in other words, people make a claim. They present evidence for that claim. We then should encourage there to be debates on that evidence. Substantive debate from knowledgeable proponents. Fam, the hardest thing about this whole coronavirus thing for me has been to admit to myself that I am not a knowledgeable proponent of anything having to do with the coronavirus and or any vaccines and so on and so forth. Have I been vaccinated? I've started the process. But don't consider me an authority on anything. I just recently, and I mean within the last year, started studying virology. Started learning about the different types of antibodies. Started learning about T cells and B cells. Started learning about viral transmission. Started learning about public health and epidemiology. But I'm no more a knowledgeable proponent of any of this than you are. You know, experts matter, fam. Experts matter. They do. The link for what? Off of this? Yep. Sorry about that. I normally would do that. Thank you for getting your brother squared away. You're right. Here we go. All right. Fam, knowledgeable proponents are people that you can trust. All right. What's more likely to be true? That a kid grew up studying biology in the hope that one day they would come up with a way to be able to destroy all Negroes. Or perhaps they just had an interest in science. I know it's a possibility they could hate Negroes, right? But what's most likely? That people who are epidemiologists because they enjoy the study of how epidemics occur and how pandemics occur? What about virologists? I was reading information from one of the leading virologists in this country, a man who literally wrote the textbook on virology. You know what he said was his reason for studying viruses? Because they're awesome. Yeah, that sounds like a conspiracy to me. You know what, fam? The cool man says, sorry, but experts in the system are tainted with white supremacist ideology. So are you. So am I. Point out somebody in America that isn't tainted with white supremacist ideology. Somebody who's been delivered, who are completely pure of the acculturation on our side and the inculturation on their side. Use your noodle, fam. If the option was that black people couldn't listen to, talk to, interact with, believe anything from anybody who was infected with white supremacist ideology, we would all be individual islands, never trusting nobody and nothing, because we're all affected by it. Anti-blackness exists not just amongst them, but amongst us too. But we have no problem asking each other to trust us. No offense, but if your only option is not dealing with anybody or trusting anybody or anything that's infected with white supremacist ideology, I would argue you can't even maneuver anyway in this society. Sorry to be the one to tell you, but even David Duke tells the truth once or twice a day. Even Richard Spencer's got some shit he might be right on. We can still dismiss his hatred and anti-blackness. We can still dismiss his irrational ass belief in our inferiority while still accepting the truth of the things that he says is true. Because in this world, two things can be true at the same time. Somebody could tell you the complete breakdown of the molecule of deoxyribonucleic acid and still be a fucking racist. Somebody can still help you be able to see the black hole in the center of our galaxy and still hate niggas. So what, we supposed to not believe that they, not trust in the science that they use to be able to view Sagittarius A star because they don't like black people? Fam, I don't even know how. I don't even know how to make that make sense. If the arbiter of determining what should be acceptable is truth or not truth depends upon someone's view or infection, as you say, with white supremacist ideology, I would argue that as black people, we can't do anything. You can't trust what you get when you go to the grocery store. You can't trust what you're putting in your gas tank. You can't trust the makeup or the clothing that you put on your back. You can't trust shit. If everything comes down to the fact that there are people who are white supremacists and that we live in a society that support it or that supports white supremacy, if it all comes down to that, the only thing black people can do is die. Because there is nothing at that point we can properly engage with. Nothing and no one. I didn't say that we have to fall in love with racists. No, we don't have to. But damn it, truth is truth, no matter who it is that's saying it. Our job as black folk, because again, I couldn't care less about what the rest of America is doing, but our job as black folk is to look at the truthiness of what is being said. And to do that, we require knowledgeable proponents having active and open debate. We need people who don't believe they have the answers, but who are willing to work to get answers. One of the most surefire ways that you can tell that someone has closed their minds off to the possibility of the truth or falsehood of a thing is when they believe they have the answer to the questions. Fam, we have had the Rona with us for a little over a year now. Anybody that's claiming to have all the answers is lying to you. Anybody that is claiming to have all the answers is telling you lies. However, there is much that we have discovered about SARS-CoV-2. You know what, fam? I was telling you that I had an issue with the vaccine and the speed with how quickly it was developed. I was like, God damn, it's not even a year and they already got this vaccine shit? Like, that shit threw me for a loop. And then they started talking about mRNA, messenger RNA. And I was like, what? I never even heard of that. So now, if I did like most of us do, I would take my ignorance, the fact that I had never heard of mRNA. I would take my fear, my natural concern of the rapidity of the development of the vaccine, and that would be enough for me to say, nope, I'm not taking that shit. So in order for me to overcome my natural biases, I had to do something that I would not normally do. By the way, shout out to my esteemed brother Double C. I had to actually look at the information. So I started from the beginning. I looked at, okay, what's mRNA? And that's when I started reading about messenger RNA. But of course, you can't just read about messenger RNA. You have to understand RNA and DNA transcription. You have to understand ribosomes. So I basically took a amateur biology class to understand what RNA does within a cell. I said, well, okay, who's been studying mRNA shit? So then I started looking at the mRNA research, and it turns out that they've been doing research around potential uses for RNA, messenger RNA in medicine for like 10 years. So even though the development of the vaccine is new, the principles and the understanding of what messenger RNA does and its potential use in medicine and in vaccines and in treatments and therapeutics isn't new. It's been around for a while. Oh, really? Ain't that something? So by going against what I already thought I knew the answers for, by going against my own bias towards being concerned about the speed of development and the rapidity of the vaccine, by doing just a tiny bit more research, I was able to say, you know what? This got potential. This got potential. But the debates on the science side of the house actually helped. People doing studies and meta studies and having that scientific debate between knowledgeable people who dedicated their entire lives to understanding these subjects. That shit's helpful. Let's go to the third bullet point, fam. Arguments from authority carry little weight. In science, there are no authorities. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that you you should do something because this person says it or that person says it. I can direct you to who's speaking on a particular subject. And I can point you to their research. But ultimately, who's authoritative simply comes down to who's demonstrated that they're knowledgeable. When you look to build a house out of bricks, you don't go to a barber, family. You go to a mason, a brick mason. And you ask the brick mason to show you his previous work. Show you the houses he's built. He's like, oh yeah, I built this house over here. I put this one up over here. I developed a new technique for putting this house over here. And based off of his work, you determine that he's knowledgeable. And once you've determined he's knowledgeable, you then may see him as authoritative in speaking in the subject of brick masonry. But just because he walk up and he say, well, I'm a brick mason and I've been doing this for 30 years and I know you can't put no house up like X, Y, and Z. Okay. What that mean? That's one brick mason saying that. Can we get an independent confirmation? Somebody that's not him. Some other people that's not him. Some other people that have no interest in proving him wrong or right, who just know. Can we get more information? Who can we get it from? And at no point is one authority more authoritative than another one. But the weight of evidence, the weight of knowledge over time gives you enough information to be able to determine who's speaking knowledgeably about a subject and who's not. Meanwhile, on social media, all I have to do is put on all the shit I'm saying about the coronavirus vaccine and all of that. It's easy to disregard it because it's me, because it's Mark Black. But if Mark Black had on a white doctor's coat, a lab coat with my name stitched over here on the chest, maybe a pocket protector, was putting up a few slides with some neat drawn pictures on it, I could say anything I want about the coronavirus and or the vaccine, and you would be surprised at how many people would take me as authoritative. And again, fam, this isn't a problem with black folk. This is a problem with human psychology. For those of you who are interested, look up the Stanley Milgram experiment. This was an experiment done back in the 60s where they brought in volunteers and they told them that they had someone else connected to a machine in another room that delivers an electric shock. And if they asked these people in the other room a question and they got the answer right, they were good to go. If they got a wrong answer, they would get a shock. And for every wrong answer, the shock would go up from there. Okay? So that's the experiment, the setup. Now, there was nobody getting shocked. That would be unethical in an experiment. But the person that was sitting in the room with the buttons on the machine didn't know that. Now, they made it clear to the person that was pressing the buttons to deliver the shocks that at a certain point, thank you, Cass, I appreciate you, that at a certain point, the shocks would become damaging to the person on the other side. Okay. So they would ask them a series of questions. And of course, for every wrong question, they flick a switch, press a button, and give them a shock. Now, at the beginning part of it, when the shocks weren't in any way troubling or lethal or anything like that, most people had no problem with doing it. But everybody got to a point when they were approaching that voltage where it could be dangerous. Everybody in the experiment got to a point where it's like, nah, I don't want to do that. But here's the twist. The person in the room with them was dressed up like a scientist. You know, lab coat, clipboard, glasses, pen. So the person with the board says, please continue. They didn't threaten him. They didn't tell him that they would fail the experiment or anything like that. They didn't do shit. They just said, just please continue. And because this person looked like they were authoritative, overwhelmingly, people continued to press those buttons, even at the highest voltage, the voltage that was known to kill people. In spite of the screams coming from the other room, the exclamations of pain, and so on and so forth, because they were told to by someone they perceive as an authority, these people would press the button until somebody was supposed to have died. So it's a human psychological thing to accede to authority. But Carl Sagan says, in science, there are no authorities. I would argue in the world, there are no authorities. There's truth, there's lies, there's information, there's data, there's interpretations of information and data, there's discussion. But we can't even have discussion, especially amongst my people. I don't think anyone's seen hatred until a black person dissents from what other black people think. Let's look at the next bullet point, shall we? Carl Sagan suggests that we spin more than one hypothesis. Don't just simply run with the first idea that caught your fancy. Okay, so some will say they put jellyfish DNA in the vaccines. Okay, that's your hypothesis. What other hypothesis can you come up with? Can you come up with a hypothesis that potentially falsifies your hypothesis of jellyfish DNA? Can you come up with a hypothesis that potentially supports the use of the vaccine? Just don't look at just one way to do things or one way you think things are supposed to go. Are there other ways? Are there other questions to ask? Are there other opportunities for exploration of information? Are there other areas of information to get? Many times we latch on to our pet hypothesis, our pet guess as to what the answer is, and we won't let it go. We're like a dog, just lockjaw on that one hypothesis. Are there other hypotheses, or hypotheses, I should say, that could explain things, right? Like the moon, it appears to be made from the same material that the earth is. Now, there's been a whole host of hypotheses. Everything from the moon is made from green cheese, not real green cheese, fam. That just means new cheese. To a whole host of other things. And scientifically minded people are interested in all of those hypotheses. They don't have a pet one that they're in love with. Sure, they got their biases. They're human just like we are, right? But they're willing to accept the possibility that there are other guesses that could explain a given phenomenon or observation. How many of you have looked at a circumstance or a situation and thought, how many different ways could this be? How many different questions can I ask regarding this phenomenon, or this situation, or this circumstance? How many questions can I ask that will give me some answers I can work with? Some answers I can examine. Let's look at the next bullet point here. He says, try not, well, I already addressed the one. He said, try not to get overly attached to a hypothesis just because it's yours. Fam, out of all the different things on this list, I think that that's probably one that's the most important. I know it makes us feel good to think that we're the one that sees what's going on. Right? Like, let's be honest, fam. We family. Let's be honest with each other, fam. It feels good to think you understand. You're the one who gets it. You're the one who understands what's going on. All this shit is happening. All these Negroes is stumped. But you got it knocked. You got it figured. That's seductive. It is seductive psychologically to imagine that in a whole world of ignorance, you're the one who sees. We even have a saying regarding it, fam, that in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. We all like to think that we feel that we got it, that we know what's going on, that our hypothesis, our guess about what's actually happening is the right one. But like Carl Sagan, I don't adhere to that. When I come to you, fam, as I often have in the past, with a suggestion on a course of action, I always make sure to remind you that it is not the answer, but it is an answer. And I always encourage you to look for other options, to question the answers I bring to you. Question the questions that I ask. Just because I think that I get it, that I understand what's happening, does not mean that I do. I can't fall in love with my own guesses to the point where I don't want to hear anybody else talking, that I don't give a fuck what they say. Because I could damn well be wrong, and they could be right. Let's look at the next bullet point, shall we? The next bullet point is quantify wherever possible. Quantify means, fam, to count, to show numbers. People talk out of their ass all the time. That it's this, it's that, it's this, it's that. When you say, okay, bring the evidence. Show us percentages. Show us confidence intervals. Show us information. Nowadays, they get away with just telling you to go research it for yourself. So they're the only ones with the answers. But then when you ask them, okay, well, how did you derive these answers? They tell you, oh, well, you go figure it out for yourself. I know the answer, but you just got to go research it for yourself. They pretend that the burden of establishing the soundness of a claim is on you, when it's actually on them for making the claim in the first place. When you look at the development of the coronavirus vaccines, they've issued report after report, paper after paper, study after study that shows not only the efficacy but the effectiveness in the real world of these vaccines. But funnily enough, all of the people that I've seen that are saying, nah, I'm not taking it, I'm cool. When you ask them, well, how did you derive at that conclusion that you shouldn't take it? Don't have no numbers. Or they got numbers from sources that have a vested interest in getting people to not take vaccines. I think it's strange. Quantify. If we should not take this, it should be clearly able to be established as to why we shouldn't take it. It should be clearly established. You should be able to provide a study, some evidence, somebody tabulating something, somebody who counted something. Because the people that suggested we should take it, they brought their evidence, they brought their numbers. Then you could question the numbers. I recommend that you do. If somebody tells me something's 95% effective, I gotta see how they arrived at that. I'm not just gonna roll over and say, oh really? 95%? That's not good, I'll take that. No. I need to know how they arrived at that number. But at least they brought me a number. At least they brought me something that I can look at the methodology. How was the study done? Was there a control group? Was it double blind? Was there placebos involved? So even the people that were conducting the studies didn't know who got what. I need to know the methodology and the numbers. Quantify wherever possible, fam. If somebody comes to you with any claim, they need to be able to tell you how they arrived at that claim. Let's look at the 7th point here. If there's a chain of argument, every link in the chain must work. Fam, we talked about this when we did the broadcast on critical thinking. Remember I shared with you how an argument is constructed? That every link in a chain of an argument has to work in order for the argument to be either valid or sound. If at any point, like if one of the premises of an argument fails, then the argument fails. If the conclusion is not supported by the premises, then the conclusion fails. The argument fails. If somebody makes a claim about something, and even if they give you a chain of how they arrived at that conclusion, if at any point any link in that chain fails, the whole argument fails. Somebody could come to you and say, this happened, and that happened, and this happened, and that happened. And I know that this happened and that happened because of X, Y, and Z. Well, if Y fails, if you can clearly establish that Y either didn't occur or was caused by something else, then that whole argument that they made fails. Doesn't matter if X and Z might have had some validity to the conclusion. Whenever somebody's making a claim, you don't just question the claim itself. You have to know how they arrived at that claim, and you have to examine every link in the chain, every process by which it took to get them to a conclusion. And if at any point anything fails, then the entire argument fails. You can simply just dismiss that. You know, one of my favorite sayings, fam, is anything asserted without evidence can be dismissed without evidence. And it's true. I've had plenty of people tell me what they think they know about the Rona vaccines and other shit, and have given me no evidence whatsoever. None to support whatever they say. I don't even have to entertain it. I don't even have to consider it. If you assert it, but provide me with no evidence, no clear chains of logic, I don't even have to waste any mental headspace on trying to work it out. Fam, if you just adopted that process alone, it would save you so much time and effort. There's a lot of claims being made by a whole lot of folk out here. What that mean? If they don't present any evidence, you don't owe them anything. Let me read some of y'all's comments for a second here. Somebody asked me, do I think masks work? I think they can. I think there's evidence to suggest that they do, both in helping people to not be, sick, be made sick, My understanding of the mask is that the masks aren't for me. The mask is for you. If I'm sick and I'm coughing or I'm shedding a virus or whatever the case may be, me wearing a mask makes it less likely I'm going to transmit it to you. That's my understanding based off of my take on the science. Could I be wrong? Absolutely, fam. But you asked me, and that's my take. Let's see. Black revolutionaries don't hit up white organizations. It just doesn't happen. So if you are rising, you are probably an agent and not a black revolutionary. Enough said. I hear you. I hear you. Although that's assuming facts, not in evidence. Nowadays, it's much easier for white supremacy to use black faces, even to hit up organizations. They use the black face to hit up the United States. And that black face acted in the interest of white supremacy. I think that might put a little hindrance on your statement there, the cool man. Barack Obama was a black face that headed up the biggest white organization in America, the United States government, for 8 years. He happily did the bidding of corporate paymasters, of the legislation. Yeah, he's not a revolutionary. That's true. And it might be that I didn't catch the other portion of the conversation. Did she say something about black revolutionaries and white folks? Because I know black revolutionaries that interacted with white folks. Fred Hampton Jr. interacted with white folks. There was white folks that followed his lead, as a matter of fact. Huey Newton was able to get a bunch of white folks to follow his lead. Stokely Carmichael, a whole bunch of others. Shit, there were white folks that followed Malcolm X. Sister Assata Shakur was facing a long-ass jail sentence. It was a group of white folks that busted her out and helped her to escape to Cuba. I'm not saying they all like that. Not at all. But I'm saying there's black folks that are headed over white folks in a lot of ways that are revolutionary than a motherfucker. Those black people that rise high in their world are not revolutionaries. Why would they be? That doesn't even make sense. If you rise high in this world, you're not revolutionary. We don't go for that. Why do you think them people from Black Lives Matter is getting so much smoke? Patrice Cullors buying fucking houses in California off of BLM money. Black people can tolerate a lot of shit, but they can't tolerate somebody who claims to be a person of the people in any way being comfortable. Now, don't get me wrong. I think Patrice Cullors and all the rest of them in BLM have been and continue to scam the community, to scam the people. I'm not supporting them. Not at all. But the fact is that black people don't like it when revolutionaries get too comfortable. Revolutionaries got to be struggling, got to be suffering, got to be hurting. That's what makes them believable, I guess. Let's go to the next bullet point, fam. Occam's razor. Y'all have heard me use this one a bunch of times. If there are two hypotheses that explain the data equally well, choose the simpler. I couldn't have put that any better. Yep, I couldn't have put that any better, fam. If you got two or more explanations that explain the same phenomenon, then the one that is the simplest of the explanations, is the one that's likely to be closer to the truth. If you come into my closet and you see footprints on the floor of my closet, what's more likely? That something walked in there previously and left? Or that there's an invisible dragon that I keep in my closet in case somebody comes in there and tries to steal my stuff? What you see is tracks. Both statements have explanatory power to an extent. But which one's most likely? You've never seen an invisible dragon before. You've never even seen a dragon before. Big Unc said, as far as Occam's razor, the solution that is observed is the truth. If it can't be observed, it's not true. I would agree with you, except that observations can produce more than one data point, Big Unc. So you have two or more different data points that explain the same observation. That does happen quite frequently, as a matter of fact. So which one is most likely to be closer to the truth of the matter, right? Closest to being an explanation for any given phenomenon. Basically, Occam's razor says don't add extra shit. If you got two or more explanations for something, look for the one that's most simple. Because usually that's the one that's closest to the reality of the matter. It didn't say it was the reality. It says it's closer to. Because people seem to forget that truth is a target that many times we get close to, but oftentimes we don't hit. And that's due to a lot of different reasons. One, it's due to the limitations of our sensory apparatus. It has to do with our lack of ability to apprehend certain items and data points. It comes down to understandings of things that are clear enough but don't explain everything so far, right? So limitations in what we're able to explain, and a whole host of other things, right? So yeah, I get where you're coming from, fam. And the last bullet point here is ask whether the hypothesis can, at least in principle, be falsified. In other words, can you test it? Can others duplicate the experiment and get the same result? What this has to do with, fam, is again, not being attached to your biases. Can the explanation that you believe you have be proven to be false? If you come up with an explanation that says that people are getting sick with what appears to be an upper respiratory illness, but is actually caused by ionizing radiation from 5G spectrums. Okay, that's a hypothesis. Can that hypothesis be tested? Can it be falsified? Right? Can we prove it wrong? Because, fam, a hypothesis that you can't prove wrong is no hypothesis at all. It's not even a guess. It's not like any assertion you make that is impossible to falsify. What explanatory power does that have? We can't say yes to it or no to it because it's untestable. It's unfalsifiable. You feel me, fam? I'm going to open up the lines here shortly because, again, I know that some people are going to want to call in and have a discussion on various topics today. But before I do that, right, I just want you to understand this. Fam, At some point, this world is going to demand that you and I, as Black Americans, use our minds. Sure, white supremacists won't like it much. There's a lot of folk that won't like it much. But we will be called upon to use our minds. But in order to do that, fam, we need to know how to use our minds. We need to understand, how do we determine what's good information and what's not? How do we determine who can speak knowledgeably about a subject and who can't? How do we determine whether or not something that's brought up can even be tested, can be proven or disproven? Right? We have to learn how to leave the demon-haunted world. There's already enough for us to fear out here as Black folk on a whole host of subjects. And should you choose to do so, you could live your entire days essentially hiding from the white man. And people could reasonably argue that that's a smart thing. It's easy. It's easy for us to look at old circumstances and situations and extrapolate from those things. We're not even wrong when we do it. The hard thing, fam, is to step out there with the understanding that while we have some answers, we don't have all the answers. And be willing to search, to look, to examine, not just what we believe to be true, what we think a thing is, but what a thing actually is, regardless. Three 602-226-67 is the number. I'm not here to convince anybody to take the vaccine, fam. Not at all. What I'm here to do is to use the circumstance with the vaccine to do what I always want to do, and that's educate my people, to enlighten my people, to uplift my people. I ain't no agent. Ain't nobody paying me to say this shit. I'm not souped up or gassed up by white supremacy. I know how white folks operate and how the system is set up and all this other shit. Trust me, I do. And I don't discount none of it. But regardless of what I know, there is still more to learn. I don't have all the answers when it comes to engaging or disengaging in any way with the world in which I live. Every situation that presents itself is a new opportunity for learning, a new opportunity for growth. Caller from 910, it's your man Mark Black. What's your name, where you calling from, and what's on your mind?
How's it going, Mark Black?
What's
How's
good,
it going,
fam?
G? All right, man. I know you've been away for like 2 weeks or whatever, man.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you, fam. I mentioned it a little bit on the broadcast, but I've been in my head space, man. I've been introspective. I didn't want to broadcast because I've been doing a lot of thinking. And today's broadcast is actually kind of the result of some of the things that I've been thinking about the last few weeks, because I've been pondering on just how we tend to maneuver through this demon-haunted world. You know, we still look at things quite often from our own biases, our own superstitions, our own fears, our own worries, our own concerns, instead of looking at things as they are. And I wanted to try to find some way to address that. And today just seemed to be the day for it. But fam, the floor is yours. What's on your mind?
Man, you know what, man? I just want to call you and let you know everything's out of good faith, man. You said once upon a time, you said this to the chat once upon a time. You told us that if you ever felt like you was out of pocket,
Hmm.
you should be checked. You feel
Absolutely.
me? That's what you
Absolutely.
said, right?
That is exactly what I said,
So
and I stand on that. Do you think that I'm out of pocket today? Because if so, brother,
I,
I'm
I
ready for my check-in. Let me have it.
all right. So I'm gonna say this. The last time you asked me what on code was, I felt like I overcomplicated it. Let me give you a simplified version of what on code is.
Sure.
On code is not saying anything or doing anything to hurt the collective. Apparently, obviously our community. Not doing
Agree.
anything or saying anything to hurt the collective. That's simply what it is.
I couldn't
Nothing more,
agree with you
nothing less.
more. That's as simple as it gets. And I agree
Now,
100%.
right, right. So here's the thing. A lot of what you're saying in your broadcast, like you bring in receipts, you bring in facts. Like I get it. I get it. But here's the thing, like you telling us for the people whose naysayers about the vaccine,
Hmm.
and I'm gonna get on that in a minute. But you're telling us the naysayers about the vaccine, show me your proof, show me the facts, this and the other. I get it. I get that a lot of people in your chat is against the whole conspiracy things, but I will argue this. A lot of stuff that we were saying was conspiracies against us within the black community
Uh-huh.
was being ignored by our peers until the damage was already done. Until the damage was already done. Nobody knew
Wait,
that.
okay, I'm hearing you. So let me repeat back what you said because I want to make sure I
Right,
got
right,
it.
right,
You're saying
right, right.
that there have already been people that have highlighted attacks against our people, but were ignored until those attacks came to fruition.
Yes,
Okay. So give me an
yes.
example of what it is that you're referring to of an attack that other black people notified us about that black people ignored until the damage was done. Give me one example.
COINTELPRO.
Okay.
COINTELPRO. COINTELPRO was considered to be a myth back in that time. Until documents on top of documents, until more people started coming out, letting folks know, yo, that does exist.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I'm an agent. But the damage, by the time people knew about COINTELPRO, the damage has already been done. The damage has already been done. That's directly towards us. And
So,
you put some, go ahead.
oh no, because I actually think that I kind of get where you're coming from, and so I want to clarify my head, kind of like my thought process, and then you tell me if I'm on the right track.
Right.
Essentially, what you're saying is that it's easy enough to say bring your evidence, but people will disregard the evidence in spite of it being brought until such time as that evidence becomes irrefutable.
All right. I have a
Is,
point of
is that
reference
what you
for you.
say? I mean, am I on the right
That's,
track or no?
you are on the right track.
Okay, go on,
I
fam.
have a reference from what I'm saying. Are you familiar with Bill Cooper?
With Bill Clinton,
Bill Cooper.
Bill Cooper. You talking about the dude who
Yeah.
wrote the White Horse book, right?
The White Pale Horse, right?
On a Pale
Yeah.
Horse. Yeah, I
Yep.
actually read it
Yep.
a few times. I'll be honest with you. When I was younger, I thought there might be some validity to it because the one interesting thing about a lot of the conspiracies that we're presented with is that they seem plausible. And that's a problem. And I'll explain why it's a problem when you finish making your point. So yes, I'm familiar with Bill Cooper.
Well, see, here's the thing. My mother told me about that book because, we was always raised to question everything. That's how we was raised to question everything.
Should be.
My mom's raised to question everything.
Mm-hmm.
Having a little paranoia, that's healthy. Being paralyzed by it is not. You feel me?
Oh, no, I'm right there with you. There's a fine line between investigation and paranoia. I'm all for investigation. Paranoia, you can miss me with that shit.
Right. So the thing with Bill Cooper is when I first read Behold, what is it? The Pale White Horse.
Behold the Pale Horse.
The first thing he said, and I'm paraphrasing him, was along the lines of racism don't exist. When he said that, everything after the book became irrelevant to me. Everything after the book became irrelevant to me. Now, let me give you another name, Anthony Hilder. Are you familiar with him?
Anthony who?
Hilder.
Spell the name for me.
Anthony Anthony killed
Now,
it.
the Anthony part I got, but are you saying
Killed it.
or killed? I can't quite
Killed
make you
it.
out.
Hilder.
Hilder. Nope, not familiar with them.
All right, so he was supposed to be this dude who's a reputable researcher about all these things that's going on around the world, conspiracy theories, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
all the evil things that's going on in the world. He's supposed to be this reputable guy, noted by presidents and Congress people, whatever. And he had a debate with. Are you familiar with Khalid Muhammad?
Yes, I am familiar with Khalid Muhammad.
He had a debate.
Well with our ancestors.
Yup. See, he had a debate with Khalid Muhammad. Now, he was given, and the debate was set in a setting with the audience predominantly black. Anthony Hilder gave all these facts, all these logics to what was going on, the statistics, all of that good stuff. Khalid Muhammad destroyed him with just common sense. See, my thing is, I'm not saying that we're content with not knowing everything. I accept the fact that we don't know everything. But at the very least, we should exercise our common sense and the things that we did know in the past to get ahead in the future. Now, as far as the vaccine goes, no, I don't have all the facts. But I could tell you this, from my personal experience and from what I've seen throughout my family and various friends or whatever, we all caught COVID. We all caught it. I'm not, for the ones in the chat whose loved ones who have died, my condolences. All I'm saying is this. COVID is not something like, it's not like a HIV something to where it just naturally goes out of your body. I mean, it just stays in your body permanently until you take some type of medication or whatever to alleviate the symptoms or whatever. Or it's not like some type of STD to where you got to take some type of medication to get rid of it. COVID is something that your body can naturally get rid of. And I'm speaking from experience.
No, I hear you. I mean, that to me seems obvious at this point. Now, again, we could both be wrong as fuck, but from what I've seen of the evidence, and what I believe you've seen of the evidence, people do recover from COVID.
That's a fact.
Okay. Quick question for you.
Right.
Have you been vaccinated against anything in your life at all?
To my knowledge, no, but I'm quite sure I have in elementary school. I'm quite sure I have.
Okay, so I mean, I went to all of us went to elementary school, so I'd imagine that if we lived anywhere near a city, especially if you're talking about like Baltimore, DC, KC, Louisville, if you went from like a really small ass town or something like that, you went to school in the city, it's likely you've been vaccinated. All right. Mm-hmm. Let me give you the common childhood vaccinations. All right. Diphtheria, right? Pertussis, which is whooping cough. You know that cough kids get whenever that used to kill kids like a motherfucker. All right. And tetanus, right? Tetanus lock your joints up and shit, and it fucks you up real bad. Okay. Then you got measles, which has killed millions before they came up with good vaccinations and shit for it. Mumps, right? Where you get the swollen glands in the neck and shit like that, right? Mm-hmm. And rubella, scarlet fever. Okay? Now, out of all of those diseases that I just named, give me a number on how many of them linger. In other words, how many of them, once you're infected with it, stays with you forever? Out of all 6 of those childhood illnesses that I just named, how many of them, once you get it, you're done?
Honestly, I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna ask you a question. I don't know.
I do.
I don't know, but what I
have the answer for you.
This. Okay, good. My bad.
None of them. All of them can eventually you can recover from. Every single one of them, a kid could get it and recover from it. Every single one of those diseases, you can be infected and get it and recover from it. Now, here's the rub. How many of those that get it will die? How many of those that get it and recover from it have lingering, ongoing effects and shit after their infection? So after the virus or the bacteria has been cleared out of their system, how many of them will have lingering, ongoing effects? For example, like polio. Polio does not live in your body forever, but polio has paralytic effects that last long after your infection with polio is gone. Chicken pox. You get chicken pox is forever. Because you can get shingles as an older person. So of all the childhood diseases we know, the one that's just kind of irritating, right, that make you itch and break out in the bumps and shit like that is the one that stays with you forever. Mm-hmm. Right? But here's the thing. It's not about whether or not your body can fight off an illness. The immune system is a wonderful tool, man. I'm serious. Like in the last year, if I've learned nothing else, I've learned that our immune systems are fucking amazing. Like seriously, I'm blown away at the capability of the human body to fight off pathogens. It's not a matter of whether or not the human body can fight off a pathogen, right? So in other words, the vaccines don't have shit to do with whether or not a person can get COVID and recover from COVID. The overwhelming majority of people that get infected with the coronavirus and suffer from COVID-19 disease recover from it. They don't die. Okay? But what effects, ongoing, lingering, can come from an infection of coronavirus? That's a question that's getting answers every fucking day. And those answers, fam, are horrifying. There are people that are suffering from heart troubles, from lung troubles, from liver issues, from neurological issues, from digestive issues. And those are just a few of the list of what we're going to ultimately end up calling long COVID later on down the line. Now, I'm not saying I believe long COVID exists. I'm saying that the science still needs to be scienced. But there's a great deal of fucking evidence that suggests that even a mild case of COVID can give you effects that last well into the rest of your life. That's number one. Number two, we look at the numbers and we say, well, it's only, like maybe 1% of people that get COVID, that get a severe or a critical case of COVID and die. Phil, do you have any idea of how many people is 1% of America's current population? Our current population as of the last census is 333 million Americans. 1% of that is 3.3 million folk. That's a lot of motherfuckers, man. Like the number seems small, but when you're talking about something that is a worldwide pandemic, those numbers get to be astronomical. And if there's a way that we can prevent that from occurring, right? Why wouldn't we? Like that, see, that's the thing to me. It's not even so much a matter of can we recover from it? Yes, we can. And the overwhelming number of people do. We're starting to see evidence that anywhere from up to 30 to maybe 40% of people that get even a mild case suffer lingering and ongoing effects from a COVID infection, right? But we do recover. But if you can save millions of lives with a single shot.
Is that proven?
Yes. It's proven.
With that vaccine particularly, you can save millions of lives?
Fam, that shit is proven. The phase trials clearly demonstrated that these vaccines properly applied prevent almost 100% of deaths from COVID. We're not going to be able to save everybody, right? Because sometimes there's a negative response, a negative immune response. If you're immunosuppressed, like if you got cancer treatments, or you have HIV, or you have certain autoimmune diseases, right? We can't catch all those people, and some of those people will get the shot, but it won't have much effect on them. So if they've already got some immunological issue, yes, those people can still get sick and die. But the effectiveness in real world studies that you can go and read, there's no secrets to this shit. You can go read this anytime you want. Show clearly that it's nearly 100% effective against dying from COVID. And it's in the upper 90s of effectiveness against severe illnesses with COVID. And it protects from some of the, matter of fact, they've even shown there's some studies these are preprints, right? Because a lot of this information is new. It's just getting out there, right? But you got people sciencing the shit out of this every day. I read a study that shows that even people with long COVID, right, who are having brain fog, fatigue, who are having trouble breathing and all of these other issues and shit, are getting the first shot of the vaccination and are seeing a subside in their symptoms. They're getting better from long COVID. Now, again, there still needs to be way more science behind that. All right. So I'm not attributing that to anything. I'm simply saying that information is out there. Right. So, yes, fam, these vaccines fucking work. Like, there's no disputing that at this point and being reasonable about it. Now, people got fears, they got worries, they got concerns. You might be that 1 in a million person that takes the vaccine and has an adverse, reaction to it, right? They just recently put a pause on J&J because they found 6 young women under the age of 50 who developed a rare type of blood clot, okay? Now, 6 women. I'm not sitting here belittling the experience of any of those 6 because there was one that actually died from that blood clot that she developed, right? But there's been almost 7 million people vaccinated with the J&J vaccine. And we found 6. What this means to me is 2 things. 1, it means that the post-marketing surveillance, and that's actually a technical term because they did all the experimentation and testing in the phase trials. What they're doing now is what's called post-marketing surveillance. The post-marketing surveillance is working, meaning that they are finding these rare ass cases, these 1 in a million or 1 in 750 million or 1 in 250,000 cases of adverse effects. They're finding them. Second, this tells me that the overwhelming majority of people tolerate the vaccine just fine. You see what I'm saying? So the thing is that at the end of the day, there's nobody that can reasonably come to any of us, or I should say nobody who should be able to reasonably come to any black person and say that these vaccines don't work.
Let me ask you this.
Ask away, fam.
You don't think this COVID thing, whether it's testing or vaccines, has nothing to do with race?
I do think that COVID has something to do with race.
Because they ask you every single time you take. Because again, I had COVID for 2 months. I've been out of work. I had COVID for 2 months.
Damn, fam. I'm sorry to hear that, man. But I'm also glad you're still with me. Shit.
Yeah, I'm good. It's all right. I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna be completely honest. The first few days, it feels like a flu with respiratory issues. I'm not gonna lie. And for those of y'all who never experienced it, I'm not gonna lie to you. It is scary because if you are an athletic person, if you don't drink and if you don't smoke and if you are athletic, you know what I mean. You can do things like run and play sports without being winded as fast as the average person. Then yeah, it scares you when you are long-winded, when you can't even walk up the stairs and you breathing has.
Bro, there's NBA players that got the COVID that don't even know if they'll be able to continue their careers because of the damage that COVID-19 did to their system. And these are millionaires. They get the best access to the best medical care that money can buy, and they still fucked up.
I see, and I'm not belittling that at all. I'm not belittling it at all. I'm just saying, like, just because what it boils down to is a guess. It's an educated guess. What you want to do? You're gambling. Do you want to take the vaccine or do you want to take your chances with COVID?
Now, I will tell you, fam, that you're absolutely right. As a matter of fact, fam, you're so right. I'm going to tell you, because I'm your brother and I don't hold no secrets from you. There are 3 ways out of the pandemic for all of us. Just 3. And they're simple as fuck, right? Like, I'm not going to make this elaborate or nothing. There are 3 ways out of the coronavirus pandemic for all of us. We all have the same 3 options. Number 1, isolation. You don't go around people. You ain't gonna, you're not likely to get sick. In other words, if you're not around people that got the shit, you're not likely to get sick from it. So isolate. That's number 1. Number 2, infection. None of us have immunity to COVID. It is a novel virus, meaning that if you've never been sick, now you have been, so you do have immunity. We don't know yet how durable that immunity is, but you're not likely to get sick with COVID again anytime soon. All right? Right? So you have immunity to it. But if you've never been exposed to it, once you're exposed to it with a high enough viral load, you will get COVID-19 disease. So nobody has immunity to it. So infection is the other way out of the pandemic. And the last one is vaccination. Those are our three options, right? So even if you don't take the shot, you still got two other options. Right? That's why I'm saying I'm not hammering on people to take the vaccine. I'm going to address misinformation when I hear it. I'm going to, tell people the truth of shit and point them in the direction of resources that they can find the shit for themselves. I follow a whole list of scientists on social media, right? I follow physicians. Like there's a physician, I just love her. She's out of SoCal. Her name is Dr. Monica Gandhi. She's a wonderful, wonderful doctor, and she works with patients and shit. You feel me? Right? So she's been watching the advent of the coronavirus. She follows the science and all that shit, right? But my point is that we all have the same three choices: isolation, infection, or vaccination. But I think for me, what really pushed it over the top for me, fam, I'm just sharing a personal side, right? What really pushed it over the top for me was the fact that we live in a historical time for humanity when it comes to pandemics. All other pandemics before this one, when the disease ran through humanity, it ran through humanity. The only way out was to either be living out in the sticks where you were around anybody, or to suffer through it, and it takes who it takes. When you look at the Spanish flu, the influenza pandemic of 1918, right? There was no means by which to address that pandemic. It was either isolate long enough to get cases down so that people weren't spreading it and weren't transmitting it around, or you got sick with it and it either took you or you survived. We live in a time where we're in a worldwide pandemic, and during that pandemic actually came up with the means to be able to save lives. Ideally, in a world where we didn't let our demons haunt us, we would be standing on the rooftops talking about that this was a motherfucking miracle. But instead, we've got rampant misinformation, a lot of people throwing out signal noise that fuck up the transmission between good information and bad information. We got a whole host of fearful people and a whole host of people that think they already got this shit figured out. And that, fam, is a problem.
I mean, I won't say figured out. I would say more of an educated guess, like with the risk factor to it. You know what I mean? Like, for instance, and the reason why I came to that conclusion of just applying common sense to something is, okay, throughout grade school, I noticed that they was pushing a lot of us black kids into special ed.
Yeah.
And a lot of us were smart. A lot of us are smart as hell. It's just that, coming from where we come from, some of us, that mentality. Coming from the hood, some of us got that mentality, and our teachers is predominantly white. They don't know how to deal with us, so they place us in special ed. They do all types of stuff to keep just the black children behind. So when I asked you, does the COVID have anything to do with race?
I said
recognize that I recognize that as a whole, yes, we're not immune to COVID, but our immune system is stronger than most. No, I'll say our immune system as a collective is stronger than any other groups.
So then why are we dying disproportionately from COVID compared to everybody else? The only other group that died in the same... I'm talking about the only other group that died in the same relative numbers or close to the relative numbers that Black Americans died from COVID-19 was the Dina people on the Navajo reservation in the Southwest. That's the only other group. Everybody else in America, Black folk have been disproportionately affected by COVID-19. Because I heard this shit back when the Rona first hit, and it was all the olders getting sick. The youngers was calling it boomer remover. You remember that shit, fam?
Right.
That shit was hilarious. And then Black people, we weren't really seeing a lot of cases with Black people just yet. And so Black people were like, well, damn, you know, like that magic melanin, are we immune to this shit? I heard people talking like that. But then when the numbers flipped, as they were going to, when we started to understand just how it's transmitted, who's likely to get it and shit, when it was just the olders and stuff like that, people was freaking out. But did you notice that how when they saw that essential working ass Negroes was the ones who was likely to be exposed to it while they delivering our Uber Eats, or while they working at our grocery stores, or while they cutting our hair, America said, man, fuck this lockdown and treating COVID shit. There's an element of race to it, right? There is an element of race to it. The racial element came in, no, not in the development of the vaccine. The racism element came in when they understood just how this shit was transmitted via aerosols. They were first telling us, oh, it's fomites, and if you touch stuff, then wash your hands, and stuff, which is a good idea any damn way, right? But when they saw that COVID started affecting Black people more than anybody else, America said, fuck lockdowns, fuck helping people with, you know, stimulus checks and survival checks. We were all on board with doing all the good shit that would support the population when we thought it was the olders, when we saw what it was boomer remover. But the moment they figured out that Black people, because of our relative position in the society and the jobs we were forced to take and all this other shit, would be the ones that was primarily exposed to this shit by everybody else, man, this country said, fuck anything that would stop COVID. There was your racism shit right there. It wasn't no scientists in the lab saying, okay, niggas is dying from COVID, so let's give them the push over the edge by developing this vaccine. No. The racism came in when they realized that this shit was killing us left and fucking right. And they decided to do nothing. They wanted to open up all the states and open up all the businesses and open up this and open up that and not cut nobody no checks. There was your racism, your white supremacy right there. We missed the boat. The boat had left this dock a long time ago. You asked me, was COVID about race? Yes, it was. When they realized that Black people and other marginalized groups that they don't give a fuck about was the ones that were likely to be exposed to this and die from this shit, white America stopped giving a fuck about anything to address this shit. They listened to Trump in droves. Them same white motherfuckers that was down with lockdowns, that was down with cutting people checks and PPP programs and all this other shit before it started decimating our people. After they found out it started decimating Black people, them motherfuckers was at the beaches, at parties, not giving a shit, not wearing a mask, not doing anything to try to stop the spread at that point. Never realizing, because remember, white supremacy doesn't give a fuck how many white people die as long as white supremacy is able to be maintained, right? You know that, right?
What?
Right? White supremacy don't give a fuck about how many white folks die, as long as the edifice of white supremacy is still maintained. So white supremacy don't care about all these COVIDiots out here, like in Michigan, in the rural areas. Michigan right now is a COVID hotspot. It's shit spreading like wildfire in Michigan right now. Them white folks up there dying. They hospitals are full. You dig? But white supremacy don't care about that.
Right.
As long as white supremacy itself is not under threat. There was your element of the racial aspects of COVID, fam. It's not in the treatment for this shit or the vaccines for it, right? The racism came in when they realized that, hey, this is a twofer, right? We can get rid of some motherfuckers that we don't necessarily like. They dying like flies. Black man, I lost count at last summer on my timeline, fam. Every hour it seemed like I'm getting rest in power. Rest in power. My uncle just died from COVID. My grandmother just died from COVID. My brother just died from COVID. My mama just died from COVID. I mean, my time, fam, I said on a broadcast, because you were there actually on that broadcast when I said that if I actually stopped to mourn all of our brothers and sisters that I know was lost to COVID, I would cry and never stop. Our people was decimated by that shit and have been decimated by that shit. There was the racism. There was the race aspect.
I would ask you this. With your knowledge of white supremacy and everything that happened throughout history as it pertains to our community, you don't question it at all?
I don't question what?
The vaccine at all.
I actually did have quite a few questions. First of all, I told you that I have my concerns about the rapidity in which it was developed, right? That was a major, as a matter of fact, that was like a fear factor for me. I'm like, God damn. So you mean to tell me they just had this shit just sitting there? Until I did the research and I found out that they've been doing research into mRNA for therapeutics, vaccines, and other stuff for decades now. Like, once I done the research and I saw that the science behind the development of the vaccines wasn't new, that kind of allayed that concern for me. Second of all, I'm actually impressed that this time in the development of the vaccine, while there wasn't nearly enough of us, we weren't represented to the numbers that we should have been. But there was about 8% of participants during the phase trials of all the vaccines that were us, that were black folks, African American. And so I feel better that we at least had an opportunity to figure out whether or not we're subject to more adverse effects. Now, of course, when you're talking about vaccinating millions, there's always going to be effects that we didn't learn about in the phase trial, such as this rare blood clotting event. That's like literally a 1 in 250,000 to 1 in a million type of effect. Well, if you're doing a phase trial on 40,000 people, you're not going to catch something that happens once in a million, right? So we've got post-marketing surveillance to catch those super rare adverse effects that occur. But I feel confident that the science is there, that my people have had, even if it's not enough to my liking, some participation in the process. And the fact is that at some point, we've got, like I said, 3 ways out of this shit: isolation, infection, or vaccination.
Let me ask you a question.
Go ahead, fam.
And this is personal because you took the vaccine.
Yeah, ask me anything, bro. You know me. We ain't no secrets between you and me. Ask away.
Right. Did you make an appointment to take it?
I did. So let me give you the process.
And did they ask you your race?
Yeah, they ask everybody their race. I didn't fill it out, actually.
Now, why is that relevant?
Why is that relevant? Because of tabulation. They're trying to keep track of who's taking the vaccine and who's not, right? That just makes sense. They need to know what's the level of penetration in the population as to who's getting the vaccine. And in America, everything is by race. Like, I would be surprised they didn't ask it.
For sure.
You see what I'm just saying, like, I'm not saying there can't be any nefariousness behind it. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is of all the things that they could ask about, that's kind of the one where I'm like, well, yeah, of course, this is America. They're going to ask about race in every fucking thing, right? So, yeah. But they did ask me your race. I didn't fill it out. Because you can decline to state your demographics. And they'll still give you the shot. It's not like I went to the pharmacist and she looked at the... Matter of fact, fam, let me tell you the story. So I set my appointment when they changed the standards up here in Washington State. At first, it was only the olders that could get it, right? So the people over 65, people who were first responders, like frontline healthcare workers, nurses, doctors, EMTs, police people, and people that were in really vulnerable places, right? You know what I'm saying? Like long-term care center patients and shit like that, right? Okay, so they were the only ones for like 2 months, almost 3 months, that could get the shit. So even though I was
Right.
interested in getting vaccinated a long time ago, I couldn't get access to it because my particular group wasn't eligible. Okay, so then they changed like a week to 2 weeks before I made my appointment. They changed the standard. They said, okay, people who are 16 and older with 2 or more comorbidities can qualify for the vaccine. So I was like, sweet. So I went in. I went on a website they have here in Washington called, Vaccine Finder or something like that. And they give you a list of all the different places, like 50 miles around, that have appointments. And shit, man, the list was crazy because my problem wasn't finding where the vaccines are. My problem was actually getting an appointment. Even with that finder, it took me literally hours before I was able to lock in an appointment, because every time I would go to a place where they said appointments are available, them appointments was gone. They were snatched up, just gone. Okay. So I finally was able to get an appointment for both shot number 1 and shot number 2. I took the Pfizer shot. Okay. So I went in for my appointment on the 7th. The pharmacist took a look at the paper, because you fill out your paper and all that shit before you go in. She took a look at the paper. I mean, literally a look at the paper. Typed my name into a computer and then sat the paper down. She looked at nothing else, right? She just looked at my ID, because I showed her my ID. She looked at my ID, saw the name on the paper, name on the ID match, sat me down in the area, brought out the shot. The explanation around what she was about to do took longer than the shot did. Then I took my shot. Now, they make you wait about 15 minutes afterwards just to make sure that you don't have an immediate reaction to the shot, like anaphylaxis. Because if you have like anaphylaxis, that's going to be something that happens pretty damn quickly, right? So I sat there and I waited for 15 minutes. And he's like, Mr. Black, you're good to go. Have a nice day. We'll see you for the next one. And off I went. And like I said, I had a bit of a headache, a little bit of fatigue, felt a little hot, and my muscles were sore. And that lasted for about, I won't even say a whole day. I went to sleep that night and woke up the next morning feeling crazy better. After that, my arm was sore for about 3 days. And that was it. That was my experience, fam. Now, I'm not saying that's everybody's experience. There are people who had anaphylaxis. There are people who may have adverse effects a couple of days or a week or 2 weeks afterwards. These 1 in a million cases. My experience is different. I'm not dead yet. You know what I'm saying? And it's been over 2 weeks now since I got my shot. So my thing is, though, fam, is that I didn't expect it to be 100%. You said there's risk in this, and you're right. There's risk in every aspect of this pandemic for us. If you isolate, for example, all it takes is one person to come around you that's infected with it to ruin that. Right? You're done.
Right.
And if you get infected,
right?
I'm sorry. Go ahead, fam.
No, you right. I'm gonna let you go. My bad.
No, I was just gonna say, and if you get infected, then you're infected, and it's a crapshoot at this point. You can have a really mild case. You could be asymptomatic, because like 30 to 40% of cases at certain points of the pandemic were people who got the shit but didn't know they had it, right? So you could be asymptomatic. Right. You could get a mild case. You could get a severe case. You can get a critical case where you end up on a vent in an ICU dying, right? So that's a crapshoot. The vaccine, it too has risks, right? First of all, and I think people need to be honest about this, you can still get infected with the coronavirus even if you get the vaccine. It's not 100%, right? So you can get the shot and still get infected. Now, what they've seen is that these breakthrough cases, which is what they're called, the people get a really mild case and they're also protected from lingering or ongoing effects. Essentially, these breakthrough cases have, a sore throat and feel yucky for a couple of days, and then that's it. And many of the breakthrough cases are asymptomatic. They just have a positive test for coronavirus, but they don't have no symptoms. As a matter of fact, the CDC is recommending that unless you have symptoms with the vaccine, you shouldn't get tested for coronavirus, because even if you are somehow exposed to the coronavirus, if you're asymptomatic, then we've seen evidence that suggests that the vaccines actually help reduce transmission of the virus. So even if I'm exposed to it and I've gotten the vaccine, but I don't get sick, I'm also not going to get sick, and I'm also not likely to spread it to you even if you have not been vaccinated. You see what I'm saying? So yeah, fam, I mean, there's a lot of people who are hesitant. I respect it. You know, I say do the research. I say use the tools of science, because a lot of people say white man science, and that shit pisses me off, fam, because science don't belong to white folks.
It doesn't. It doesn't.
Science,
I would say that.
the processes of science do not belong to white folks. Black people can do science just like anybody else.
That's a fact.
So why then are we just handing science over to white folks? Like, if we sit here and complain that white folks use science against us, then I would argue that if we know that white supremacy tends to use science against us, I would imagine that Negroes would be some of the biggest science heads you ever seen. There shouldn't be a scientific field that you talk to black people about where a Negro don't know something on it. You feel me? Whether it's physics, biology, virology, astrophysics, astronomy, chemistry, whatever. Black folks should always have something to say on any scientific subject, because science don't belong to white folks.
See, I see what you're saying. Like you are absolutely right. Like I can't argue with that. That's solid. What I can say is, we practice, as far as black people go, like during the 1804 Revolutionary Haitian War, it was, you know, like for those of us who really know about it, the whole notion of voodoo, for some of us who's, you know, within the black community in America, that's still what a lot of us look down upon. We still fear that. Where in all reality, that's, you know, that's medical science. That's all it is. The practice of herbs and the natural things within, you know, the stuff that we can use, basically, that's natural, that's not man-made, that's natural. The stuff that grows on the ground and that grows on trees, that's basically voodoo is. It's the science of herbs, trees, like whatever that is. All right? You know what I mean? What I'm saying to you is this. As far as science goes, Africans believed the missionaries, when missionaries came and basically fucked them all up with the AIDS virus. You see what I mean? Like, they had their faith in these people who were supposed to be, you know, not racist, who's supposed to be good people, but they got fucked over as a whole with the AIDS virus. Now, is that misinformation?
So, I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm an expert on HIV. I've studied some about it, right? What I will say is this. The thing that I'm talking about today, had they adopted that attitude, I don't think what happened would have happened the way it happened, right? When I brought up the work of Carl Sagan and his bullshit detector, right? The 9 bullet points that I laid out today. If you notice, those bullet points don't have anything to do with stating what's true. What they have to do with is a process, right? A mental process, a framework for being able to figure out what is most likely to be true or not, right? Now, we do know that practitioners of voodoo and other indigenous faiths, right? Because I have a lot of respect for voodoo. I have a lot of respect for indigenous traditions and practices in general. Right? Just because, first of all, these are practices that people have developed over thousands of years. Second of all, these practices benefit the people that practice them, right? They make them better people in a lot of ways. Okay, so I have a lot of respect for them. But at the same token, nature cannot be the arbiter, the sole arbiter of what is good and what is not. Because yes, we've had natural treatments, you know, or treatments that you could go and pick off a tree or eat a certain seed of a fruit or a certain root of a plant. But up until the late 19th, early 20th century, the average life expectancy for most of humanity was at 35 years old. And child mortality rates, fam, was astronomically bad. As a matter of fact, in many cultures, even today, a child doesn't even get a name from the tribe until it's 5 years old. Do you know why? Because child mortality historically amongst humans in the natural state of humanity has been so atrocious.
Can I cut you off?
Go ahead, fam.
Just to ask the question, I want you to continue your point. The natural life expectancy is low for humans. Are you talking about for everybody? You talking about the Moors?
I'm talking about everybody, fam. I'm talking about everybody across the board, right? You know what I'm saying? Everybody across the board. 35 years on average. Now, that doesn't mean that people died at 35. What this means is that if you made it to 35, you had a good chance to make it to 70 and so on and so forth, right? But the odds weren't in your favor. Our average life expectancy was much lower. But with the advent of sanitation, the advent of the germ theory, because yes, germs are a theory. For those people to say, oh, it's just a theory, germs are a theory. A theory means something different in science than it does in just everyday parlance, right? Yeah. But with the advent of the germ theory, in scientific germ theory, sanitation, better access to refrigeration and storage of food, being able to process dirty water into clean water and stuff like that, we've seen the average life expectancy of human beings all across the globe just shoot up. Now, are there areas where it needs to be better? Fuck yeah. And I think that's a problem with capitalism and a whole bunch of other shit that we've been doing, right? So yeah, could we do better for everybody on the planet Earth? You're damn right we could. But the fact is that there's no denying that we've been able to make some strides utilizing a mental framework that allows us to be able to get closer and closer to what's likely to be true about reality than what's not. That's all I'm saying, fam. As Black folk, we don't get the option too often of a second chance. In other words, the less that we apprehend reality, the more likely we are to make a fatal mistake. So I would think that if us being able to apprehend reality in every area that we can is needed, is a requirement to be Black in America, I would think that we would want a framework that allows us to be able to get past our weaknesses, right? The psychological biases and weakness that prevents us from apprehending reality properly and give us a place to stand. I would think that. But again, I'm one cat, fam. What the hell do I know?
No, I totally understand where you're coming from. I do. See, here's the thing. Like, at the end of the day, like, I feel like you made an educated gamble based on what you researched, which made you feel more comfortable, and what came out of that research. And like, I can't knock that. You know what I mean? It's not like you're not one of those people to where I ask you a question and you tell me I don't know. You know what I mean? I can respect the fact that you did your research and you felt better coming from doing that research to make the decision that you made. I guess on the people from my side of the fence, it's more so of, okay, yeah, we don't have all the facts. Even if we do our research or whatever, we understand that white supremacists has done something specifically to our group since for a minute. Let's just say for a minute. I don't want to be wrong.
No, you're right.
They just did something to us for a minute.
They've been doing a whole bunch of heinous shit to us, fam. Like, right. And you know, the crazy part is that you're not wrong in that. But the thing is we have to learn how to gauge risk, right? Okay, I'll give you a case in point. Just a quick case in point. Do you know that for all of the police shootings and shit like that happen to Black people, and this is not to excuse any of them, I want justice for all my people, right? Right. But you actually have more of a chance of being killed in a car accident than you do by being killed by a cop. Now, that's not to say that cops killing us ain't an issue. It sure enough fuck is, and we should address it, right? But this is to say that on a scale of relative risks, you're not refusing to leave your house because of your concern or fear that you're going to get smoked by a police officer, right? You try to ameliorate your risk. You try to do risk assessment. You say, okay, am I riding dirty? Do I got all these niggas in the car with me? You know what I'm saying? Like, you do the survival calculus.
That's true.
And you say, okay, well, based off of my survival calculus, boom, I think I got a good chance of making it to the stove and back home without having to fuck with these pigs. And you break camp. Now, sometimes the odds are not in your favor, and you end up one of those brothers or sisters that end up having a negative interaction with the police, right? But for the most part, that's not stopping you from choosing to do your life, right? Now, the coronavirus vaccine does have some risks. Yes, it does. It's not 100%, first of all. Second of all, there's some 1 in a million, 1 in 250,000, 1 in 10,000 chances of something adverse happening. No vaccine is 100% perfect nor 100% safe. However, we do know that your odds of getting COVID in a goddamn pandemic is way higher than you experiencing any of these adverse effects from a vaccine. So if the vaccine has benefits, protective benefits, has a few possible problems, but coronavirus has clear possible problems that are ongoing, and you're more likely to get that, simple math tells you that your odds are with the vaccine. Now, again, that's not me arguing that you go get it. I'm saying that we need to learn how to gauge risk properly. Right? I appreciate that they stopped the J&J for these 6 people, right? Because we do need to understand the mechanism behind what's happening and science this shit out. But when you've already had 7 million folk plus vaccinated with this shit with no adverse effects like this, does it really make sense to stop it just for those 6? Now, if you choose, because you say, okay, I'm a woman, I'm a white woman, because every one of these women were white. They were between the ages of 18 and 50, right? And they were the ones. Now, if you're a white 22-year-old woman and you say, yeah, I'm not sure about that J&J shit, I would be the first one to tell you I don't blame you. But if you're a black 50-year-old man and they offer you the J&J, get that motherfucker in your arm and keep it pushing.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Like, what the fuck, man?
If you older, you know you got health issues, man. Like you better off taking the vaccine. Just speaking for
you a 50-year-old black man who loves his McDonald's. You know you 100 pounds overweight and you like your new pimps. You better go ahead and get that shot in your arm, fam, because COVID is laying niggas like that down almost every time they get it.
Yeah, that's almost 100 with COVID.
You feel? I'm just saying, like, if you a male, you a smoker, right? You overweight. Your odds of getting a severe to critical case of COVID is vastly more than the rest of the population. Like for you, it should be a no-brainer. Now, if you a younger guy, if you say 22 years old, reasonably healthy, you work out, you don't smoke, it's up to you whether or not you want to take the vaccine, right?
And that's where I was coming from. That's what I feel to articulate with you. I would say this, so there's no misunderstanding. Like, I do recommend older folks, who's over 50 years old, who's not the most healthiest, who don't have good eating habits. Yeah, take the vaccine. You better off doing that than getting the COVID. Because speaking from personal experience, if you already have breathing issues before you had COVID, once you get that shit, it's a wrap.
That's what I'm telling you, fam. And the thing is that this video here that we doing, this broadcast that we doing today, is essentially me making 2 points. Number one, that we need a framework. My people, our people, your people, right? We need a framework that helps us to be able to gauge risk, to be able to look at information and determine what's good information and what's not, and so on and so forth. We need that if nobody else gives a fuck. Because what blew my mind in the last couple of weeks, because like I said, I didn't broadcast. I didn't feel like it because I wanted to ponder. I wanted to examine, to observe. What I've been observing is there's so many black folk who's talking about the vaccine is a conspiracy against black people and they trying to kill Negroes. And it's got all these bad effects and it's hurting all these people. And guess who are the sources that they're giving to me to support their assertions? White folks. So they telling me, right? So you telling me that I can't look at a white scientist who's got no vested interest. He's not getting paid by Pfizer, BioNTech, or whatever. He works at a goddamn university. I can't look at a white scientist who may or may not like black people. He may be racist, but doesn't matter. But he works at a university, and this has been his life's work ever since he graduated undergrad. I can't look at any information that he comes at because that's the white man's science. But then you tell me that the vaccine has all these negative effects, and when I click the link, it's a white anti-vaxxer's website. What the fuck? Like, I'm just saying, fam, you want to talk about picking and choosing and cherry picking. It's like, okay, if you got some black scientists then who are breaking it all the way down. Now, I'm talking about legitimate black scientists. I'm not talking about somebody who's wearing a lab coat doing a goddamn TikTok video claiming that they know some insider information that don't nobody else. No, I mean motherfuckers who've been working in the field, who are knowledgeable, right, who are reputable. Then maybe I'll listen to them.
You talking about like that neurosurgeon?
I'm talking about anybody.
For president?
I'm talking about anybody, and I'm not talking about a neurosurgeon either. I'm talking about
no. I'm giving you an example.
Yeah, but no, I mean, but if you were talking about like an issue with brain matter or gray matter or whatever the case may be, yeah, I'd want to even him. I'd speak. That dude is hold up a second.
You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, you talking about what's his name? The dude who used to be head of human housing or whatever the case may be, right? He's a neurosurgeon.
Yeah, he was a neurosurgeon. He was running for president.
Yeah.
Yeah, that dude. Okay, yeah. I'll see you.
But what I'm talking about is people who are reputable. I've been reading papers from virologists. I've been reading papers from biologists. I've been reading papers from public health officials, and not just here in America, right? I've been looking at people from India who's done work, people from Africa who's done work, people from Brazil who's done work, and so on and so forth, right? I'm not limited. Right. In other words, I might get a piece of information here, but I'm not stopping with just that piece of information. I'm going to see if I can get confirmation of that same piece of information from a multitude of sources. And I'm looking at people that are likely to be all I'm saying is fam, is it a possibility that this whole COVID thing is a conspiracy to off everybody black on the planet Earth? Absolutely. But damn it, bring your evidence, right? Like show some clear, because there ain't no secrets in white supremacy. These motherfuckers couldn't keep shit secret if you paid them. Everything they do eventually comes out in the wash.
They codified though. I was make this last point and ask you a question. And I'm gonna let everybody else call in, man. I'll ask you this. Well, first I'm gonna make this point. Well, statement rather. I want to say that we can look at statistics, find the logic and things like that. That makes sense. That's definitely relevant. But I feel that as a whole, and I'm not talking about you, Mark Black. I'm not talking about you by name. I know. I'm just talking about in general, as far as us goes. Like we have to apply common sense to the statistics. And what I want to say is, in reference to that, is a lot of us who paid attention to statistics and the facts voted for Biden. We voted for Biden. And the reason why I brought that up is because right now we got this whole propaganda where they saying that blacks is attacking Asians, when that's really not the case. All of us know that's not the case, but that's the propaganda that's going on.
Yep.
And I feel as though that We did that to ourselves. We did that to ourselves.
I'm gonna tell you, fam. Politics is one of the areas where black people hardly ever apply the facts. Seriously, like I couldn't. You said you were being nice because it's obvious to me that black people do not apply fact finding or anything like that when it comes to politics. We vote for who the Democrats tell us to vote for. By the way, just me put a question in the chat for you. Right? He said, caller, how many people do you know will literally sell their health away with plasma donations, but we're scared of the vaccine? See, that's another thing, right?
How many people do you know who will literally sell their health away with plasma donations?
Black folks do all this talking shit about the vaccine, but look at all the shit that we already do that's deleterious to our health, right?
Right.
And we don't even care about that. Like I said, many black people drink alcohol. I'm sober. I've been 8 years sober, right? Many black people smoke weed. I don't smoke weed, right? Many black people smoke cigarettes. Many black people eat junk food. Many black people have unprotected sex. Many black people do a lot of shit that's risky. But what we all do is we make a risk assessment. The problem is we don't know properly how to determine risk. And so we end up in trick bags. Like plasma donations and other this shit. Like they pay you $25 a week to come in and donate plasma. Meanwhile, I saw an article where there's 3 companies on the earth, one based in India, that sells that plasma for billions of dollars a year.
Oh, yeah. Hey, like I said, shit, I don't do it. And I told my family who I'm in charge of not to do it because I don't know what they're sticking in.
Now, fam, I want to say this. I want to say this before I let you go. First of all, I'm glad that you are making a good recovery. I wish you nothing but the best, man. I hope you get your health back, your strength back, your wind back, everything back. I hope you have no lingering effects from this whatsoever, except for immunity, right? I
will say this, after the second day, man, I felt 100%, man. I did. Like, the fevers didn't bother me because if you know biology, fevers it's basically your body fighting off infection.
Exactly, yeah.
Your body heats up.
You know what they find is killing people with the coronavirus? Believe it or not, what's killing people with the coronavirus is mostly their immune system. People talking about, oh, well, I got the natural way to fight off the corona. You sure do. You also have the natural way in you to die from the shit. Because people don't realize that with certain type of immunological effects, you can end up suffering from what's called a cytokine storm. And a cytokine storm will lay your ass down. It'll kill you. And that comes from your own immune system. You see what I'm saying? Like I said, fam, I've been doing a lot of motherfucking studying this year on biology and immunology and all this other shit. Man, I learned so much shit this year. I wish I never had to learn. You know what I'm saying? The cytokine storm. Cytokines are when your body's immune system ramps up and floods it with all of these different anti-inflammatories and shit like immunoglobulin G and all this other stuff, right? But it's too much. Your body system starts to break down because your body then starts attacking its own self, trying to destroy the virus. And that's completely natural. That is your immune system. So yeah, you have within your body the immune system to be able to fight the shit off, but you also have within your body the same immune system that could take you out the motherfucking box with COVID. This disease is insidious,
I
fam.
appreciate you researching.
Oh no, hey fam, I did it so that I can always be a source of comfort, of information to my people, fam. And that's what I want for all of us. I want us all to adopt this mental framework that allows us to be able to start making good determinations as to what's best for us and our people, right? Because nobody else is going to do it. Science don't belong to white folks. Sociology and psychology don't belong to white folks. Anthropology and biology don't belong to white folks. We can use those tools just like they can, and we should.
No, I'm about to get off the phone, man. I appreciate talking to you and
Hey,
everything.
man, I
but
appreciate you,
wanna
fam.
ask you
Again, I
questions.
wish you all the best, all your family the best, man. A quick recovery for anybody who suffered through it or whatever the case may be. And we'll talk again, I'm certain.
Yeah, would you like me to touch on the whole propaganda with the Asians and the blacks? And
Oh yeah,
also,
matter of fact, I'll talk about that on my next broadcast next Saturday because
yeah, most definitely.
that's a whole nother can of worms that we need to open up because that touches into the relationship, this sick ass domestic violence relationship we got with the Democrats and shit. I'm definitely gonna touch on that.
And how you feel about that little Nas X video? Remember I talked about the game, brother.
Fam,
Remember I talked
now do
about
you really
that?
want my opinion about it?
Hey, I'm gonna let you talk about that, but I'm gonna get off the phone,
Okay,
man. But I'm gonna
fam,
let you
I
talk about that.
appreciate you,
I'm
man. I
listening.
appreciate you. And yeah,
All right,
I'll mention it kind of offhand before I take the next call. So peace, brother.
all right, no
Peace.
doubt.
Great call from the brother. So how did I feel about the Lil Nas X video? I was afraid somebody was gonna ask me that question. So, fam, hold on, I'm not gonna take a call just yet, brother. I want to take your call, but stand by. Give me just a minute. So I watched the Lil Nas X video Montero, right? Fam, I'm not gonna lie. I loved the motherfucking video. I thought it was great. Yeah, I said it. I know motherfuckers is offended talking about it's the devil this and, you know, the garden eating that and it's blasphemous. Look, the imagery was dope. The video production was killing it. I even liked the goddamn song. I'm not gay, and so it doesn't matter to me what Lil Nas X sing about or what he do. It's his business. But I thought it was a dope ass video. So there we go. All right, black man, damn. Since you wouldn't let me finish my chop, go ahead, fam. What's on your mind?
We're not talking about Nas X right now. No.
Okay, fam. He asked me. I shared my opinion. I thought it was a great goddamn video.
No, I don't want to hear about that. I have no idea what you're talking about.
That's okay. It's okay, fam. We gotta continue. The floor is yours. We're gonna talk about what you want to talk about. What's on your mind, fam?
All right. So my thought is, I'm not like the last caller was a street dude. I'm not that dude. Y'all know that. Well, most of y'all should know that if y'all listen for a longer period of time. But y'all know one thing about me, and I am what? And so, I remember going to the military when I was 17 years old, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you know that first 4 days of MEPS, right?
Yep.
You see how many folks you see naked and slouchy and strong and so on and so forth. You know what I'm saying?
Fam, what fucked me up about MEPS, I mean not MEPS, but when we was in reception, was that line that we was in at the clinic. That line we was in where they had like 8 motherfuckers with needle guns, just like we was on an assembly line. Like I done got vaccinated for shit most motherfuckers don't even know about.
You was in Ford dealership, right? You was like on the assembly line, right?
Hell yeah, they were like next.
Okay. Yep. Okay. So my thought to you, I'm sitting there telling you right now. I remember that, right?
You what?
I remember that from being, young.
Yeah, you remember that. Okay, I got you.
In there. No, when I got in there, I was already 17 when I got in there.
Yeah.
I was 18 on my birthday. But I seen already black men, because I call them men because they joined the army, they already had that shot. I was like, what the fuck? They were like, why ain't you got that shot? They came at me like, you don't have that same dot on your arm, like a tattoo, I still don't have it to this day.
Neither do I, fam. Here, I'll show you. The needle guns that they used on us didn't have that shit. I remember what mark you talking about. My mom's and a few other people that I know that are older heads got that mark. The guns used to make that mark on your arm. I don't have it on this one or on this one. The guns they use on us don't do that shit no more.
Oh, okay. So, again, I'll tell you this from my point of view. And y'all all know me from back in the past. My whole thought was that for me, y'all know that I took pills when I went to Desert Storm. You had to take the pill. There was no getting around it. No nothing. You'll get Article 15. You'll get the military. So, yes, sir. Yes, master. I took the pill. Stellar or not, I had AR-15 on my side. I could have. Oh, M16. I'm sorry. M16 on my side. 45. Yes, I could have done whatever. Wow. But at the same time, you're still thinking of your future. All right. So I took the freaking pill. I took the pill. I'm 51 now, and I still pay for the pill today. That's what I'm not happy about. That's what I'm sitting there saying that I see from my point of view. I'm not hating on Mark Black. He's my dude. Don't fuck with him. Don't come at him like that because he knows what the processes are or the processes are, right? And what you have to do, all right? A lot of y'all in the chat room know. Some of these new folks, I just like, wow, all right. And from my living in the country, right?
Mm-hmm.
From buying food in the country and shooting food in the country, opposed to buying food out the store. We all know there's a difference, so stop playing that with that. What's that? ADF or what's the meat corporation that Oprah had to fight?
You talking about like Tyson? Because there's a few. There's Tyson Foods. There's Archer Daniels Midland. There's
but you have a corporation that's USDA grade meat.
Yeah,
period.
That's all of them. That's Tyson. That's ADM. That's who else? Shit, there's like 5 or 6 companies that's involved in food.
I tell you right now, go shoot a squirrel with a pellet gun in your backyard. About 5 or 7 of them. And feed your family.
That's facts.
Potatoes that came out the ground.
Shit, let me tell you something. I done ate more than my fair share of squirrel. I done ate raccoon. I done ate possum. I done ate deer, elk. I do want to try moose. Because you have to. I think you have to live in Alaska and be hooked up with them natives and shit before you can.
Oh, that moose. I'm in Texas.
Have you had moose?
Special. You ever had moose? Yes, I have.
Is it good? Because I heard moose was bomb.
Special. It's special. It's special meat.
Oh, damn it!
In your life. Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta have that, man. But yeah, I'm with you. I mean, the thing is that we got all these concerns all of a sudden. But when you look at the shit that black people have been prone to do, like,
right?
You know what I'm saying? It's like, come on, fam. Like, I get that you got concerns and worries and stuff, and I'm not trying to belittle you, but it's not like you had these concerns or anything else. What really messed me up, black man, is the number of amateur virologists and shit that have sprung up amongst black people. Now, I'm telling you legit. I didn't just research off of some website that was put up by an anti-vaxxer group or whatever the case may be. I actually went and read the scientific papers. I'm on Med Archive. I'm reading the Lancet. I'm reading, the Journal of Medicine in America, right? Or the Journal of American Medicine. I'm reading, I'm reading studies and papers and shit. You dig? To try to learn this stuff. I'm subscribed to the dude. He's actually got a channel where every year he refreshes his course. But this is the guy that literally wrote the book on virology. And I'm subscribed to his channel and watch his classes, like with the slides and everything. I'm learning about ribosomes. I'm learning about transcription and reverse transcription. I'm learning about antigens and pathogens and this, that, and the third. Meanwhile, I got all these Negroes come to me that ain't cracked a book open since they was forced to in the 5th grade at the library, claiming they understand immunology, biology, virology up and down. And I can clearly debunk what they're talking about just from a cursory glance at the information. But here's the problem, black man. People like information that confirms what they already know. Like I said,
Mark, you've already said that. You just sit there and make the whole point. You did that for them, but they don't do that for us on reparations and our whole nine.
Mm-hmm.
You just sit there and say your whole point.
Yeah.
But they will not sit there and systematically do the same thing for us our points.
But you know what? I don't care what the other groups in this country is doing. When I talk to us, I'm talking to us, about what we need to do and how we need to operate. We already know how white supremacy and its pets are going to operate when it comes to us. That shouldn't be news to anybody with eyes, ears, and a head. You know what I'm saying? The thing is, though, is that black people need to ask some really tough questions about how we need to maneuver. For example, why aren't we talking about what's going to be the consequences should Derek Chauvin not receive justice for the murder of our brother George Floyd?
Hey, don't start with me on that point. But my point for you is that we do the research, or you have done the research to prove a point. But on the other side, they don't do that same research to prove the point. Let me finish now, all right? And the first edition of any medicine, right, whether it's AIDS, syphilis, or the flu shot, is going to be proven to be what? Substandard. Will get better with time, right? This is what I hate about having, not guns, but assets of guns. Like I sit there and say a suppressor, which means silencer and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because the year that it takes me to get that silencer, there's new technology that made that silencer that I just bought better. It's no different when you buy Jordans, and the second generation of Jordans are going to be better than the third or the. You know what?
I feel you on this one, black man. The only thing that I'm, and it's not that even I disagree with you, because I don't. No, I just question where the hell is it supposed to get better? Because these damn vaccines, dude, I'm telling you, like, I have to literally resist the temptation to cheer like a fucking nut job at how great these vaccines are. Seriously, like, this shit is a game changer. And not only that, but mRNA technology has the capability to change therapeutics, treatments, and even cures, not just across coronavirus, but cancer and a whole bunch of other shit. Like,
no. I agree with all that.
So I'm just like, I know you're right, because if this iteration of the vaccines for coronavirus is this damn good, I'm wondering how the hell are they going to make it better? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I'm with you. You're right. Science progresses and things get better, and you would be surprised at how. I mean. Now, somebody addressed in the chat something that I wanted to address, and I'm glad I got you on the line when I'm addressing it, because somebody was talking about in the chat how to do it from Pfizer.
I don't watch the chat. I don't watch the chat at all.
Okay, no, that's okay. I'm just saying I wanted you to hear what they were talking about. All right. Somebody in the chat said that the CEO of Pfizer is talking about there may be a third shot that's needed. Let me tell you something, fam. First of all, even I'm suspicious of that. Why? Because he's the CEO of a motherfucking pharmaceutical manufacturer that makes a vaccine. Yeah. He's got a fucking vested interest in seeing to it that we get third and fourth and 10th and 5th shots and this, that, and the third. So even I'm suspicious of that shit. Second of all, I'm not looking. Okay, so this is going to sound crazy, but I can't help but to say it. I'm not looking to never be exposed to the coronavirus. Now, what do I mean by that? I mean that the coronavirus is out there. Okay? If I live my life, if I do my things, even with vaccination, at some point, given enough time without the coronavirus just being completely wiped out, I'm going to be exposed to it. My goal with getting the vaccine was never to not be exposed to the coronavirus, because you don't get vaccines for that. You get vaccines so that in case I am exposed to the coronavirus, my body now has the tools needed to help me to fight off an infection that could put me in the grave. Now, after this next shot, because I got one more shot I got to take on the 5th of May. After that last shot, and 2 weeks after that, when they say that you have the maximum level of antibodies that you're going to develop, that we currently understand, cool. After that, Pfizer can't sell me a third motherfucking shot. I don't want a third motherfucking shot.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
Yes, Mark. I'm there. This where we separate, right? I'm 51.
Yeah.
Right. I take a shot every week. I take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different medicines every day. Right?
Yeah.
You think taking a shot a couple times inside a month is no big deal. I got to do this every freaking week from Desert Storm.
Yeah, fam. I remember I developed a blood clot in my leg. I had to shoot myself in the stomach 4 times a day, every day for 2 weeks.
This is nothing.
Yeah, this shit is nothing.
When you compare it,
one shot is nothing.
I got to go out there. Yeah, I got to go out there and still do my thing. I still got to go feed the cows. I got to still go to the gym. I still got to do this stuff. And y'all think, not you, but a lot of people think that that's asking too much of you. Dude, I'm trying to stay here as long as I can. I got grandkids right there in the room right now.
That's facts.
In Vegas. Yeah.
But you know what though? Fam, I told you this broadcast is my way of saying 2 things. One, that we need to get a mental framework that allows us to be able to apprehend reality a lot better than we do. And number 2, now that pretty soon everybody that could want a vaccine will be able to get one, I'm done fucking mourning. From now on, after everybody who wants a vaccine can get one. In other words, if you want one, you could go out, make an appointment, and get one. Once the vaccines are available to everybody, I'm not gonna worry about a single motherfucker on my timeline and in social media and my peoples anymore who talk about, yeah, fam, I just lost my family to COVID. I'm not saying I don't care, but I'm not gonna stress it out no more.
No. I'm not saying that. But we need to team up. That's a team effort.
You know what I'm saying? And the reason why I say that is this, because it's one thing to mourn the loss of your people when there's no other way to be able to get through this shit. Before the vaccines, the only way through this pandemic for all of us was to either isolate the pandemic out of existence, right? In other words, everybody stay at home. Fuck this essential worker shit. Everybody stay at home. Isolate like a motherfucker until there is no more cases, right? So either we went 0 COVID or COVID was going to burn through us all, take who it was going to take, and that was going to be the end of it, right? Before the vaccines. Now we have a third option. We have the vaccines. All 3 options have risk. So now you got a choice. Before it was easy to talk this shit because we all were in the same boat. It was either we hide from COVID or we get infected from it, right? But now you don't have to get sick from this shit and you still choose not to take advantage of that option. I don't know what to tell you.
I get what you're sitting there saying, but 2, on my part, I did what I was told to through the military. And I told them, I don't even take vitamin C at that point. I was 18, I was 20. I was in my 20 when the Desert Storm started. But at 21, I was in the military on my 21st birthday in Saudi Arabia and being rained upon, right?
Yeah.
Get up, come take this medicine. I didn't do nothing. I don't want to take that. You're going to take it. No,
I hear you, fam. I mean,
and get kicked out.
Your circumstance is different, fam. Like, I understand.
No, hold on just a second. So when I heard my neighbor had died from COVID, her whole reason why she died from COVID, because they didn't want to give her the surgery.
What surgery?
Point blank. She had, what do you call it, stent in your heart, in your lungs, and all that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, she had to take a stent, and they said, well, we can't do the stent because you have the COVID, and so on and so forth. So my point from them saying, because I'm taking something that my body is not natural to. Back then, boy, you talking about a bad man. A bad man was made by lineage. from the Negroes in the past, that slavery stuff, I was a bad man. And what I'm sitting there saying to y'all is that what you have in health-wise, don't demonize that to their circumstances is what I hope. And
No,
Mark,
I won't. I won't, fam. I won't. First of all, you know me better than that. I don't wish ill or death or anything like that on anybody.
That's not my fight. That's not my fight. My fight is if you want to be healthy and you think you're doing the right thing and it's okay for you, do that then. But don't fight Mark Black and sit there saying, "Oh, Mark, you're a sellout. You're an agent because you didn't do this, that, and the third." No, that's not what I'm sitting there saying.
Yeah, of course.
All right, and the same thing, we go through this with AIDS prevention. My brother, your brother and my brother have passed away from different ideas, right?
Yeah.
And my brother would always tell me, he would call me something it was so derogatory. He would sit there and say, you don't get out enough, you don't do enough, you don't experiment enough. And I would tell my brother all the time, I said, dude, I don't need to have homosexual sex. I don't need to fuck a man in the ass. No, I don't want to do that. I don't want to stick something in my arm to know I don't want to do that. Your meth and heroin, I don't want to do that. That's not in my realm. Even when I would tell my wife, she would sit there and ask me all the time, you doing this, you doing that? I said, when I go out hunting, fishing, and all that, I'm hunting, fishing, all that. I'm not going to go see some white woman or some black woman, some Asian woman, some Mexican woman. You're here. I got what I wanted to house. I'm good. That's what that goes back to.
Fam, I hear you, man. Like, at the end of the day, all I want is for my people to have options. I remember I did a broadcast a long time ago, and I said to you, you can always tell somebody who does not have black people's interests at heart, because every time they talk, they're taking options away from us rather than giving us options. Mm-hmm. Right? You remember I said that? Mark Black is letting you know that vaccination is a viable option. I don't give a shit what you've heard on Facebook or some other shit. Now, wait, pause. Let me finish. That does not mean I'm telling you to go out and run and do it. People are going to make their own choices. And I know this because Negroes are Negroes. I have never been able to convince a Negro to do something they never wanted to do. Right? So people are going to do what the fuck they want to do. But they will not be able to say this. They will not be able to say they didn't get good information. That they didn't get information from a source that has no interest whatsoever in hurting them. And they won't be able to say they didn't know. That's the only thing I care about. Once you know, once Mark Black has delivered it to you, hey, do you. You know what I'm saying? And that's really where I'm at on the whole vaccination thing. It finally took me, some weeks. Because like I said, I've been doing a lot of introspection, a lot of study, a lot of thinking. But I finally got to that point where I was like, you know what? This is another option, another way out. People can either choose to take it or not. That's on them. My whole family at this point is vaccinated. Every single person in my household, right? There's 3 of us who are half vac, right? Meaning that we've got 1 shot and we're waiting on the second. And then the other 2, one is fully vaccinated. The other one got the J&J, so they're fully vaccinated. Everybody in my household is vaccinated. And we all sat down and we all talked about it. We all asked questions. We all did the looking at the research and at the numbers and shit like that. And we all determined that it made sense. LaShawn, I'll go ahead and let you talk because I want to address something LaShawn said, but I'll address it after you off the line.
What you said, Mark, just want to understand, you're that guy for taking that. I'm that guy for not taking that. But you know what? You're still my guy.
And you know this, fam. You know
this.
This.
So I'm just saying, for my part of the family, we're not doing that. I'm not taking no vax. I'm not doing none of that. My grandkids are not taking it. My kids are not taking it. I think my ex-wife is thinking about it. I'm not sure. But my daughter's, my daughter lives with me. She's not taking it, so far as I know.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole thing I sit there and said way back from, oh my gosh, it's been a long time ago. Where's your AIDS AIDS prevention? What are you taking for AIDS? You take everything for herpes to flus. Where's your AIDS prevention? They don't give that to you. And I was sitting there saying, I'm not doing it. My family will not do it. But you know what, Mark? When we have a family reunion, anything, you're more than welcome to come.
Hey,
right,
man, I appreciate it. The only thing is, I would argue that, there are some differences between, different diseases. For example, coronavirus is, hold on, fam. Coronavirus is airborne, right? I don't have to be out free fucking and doing wild shit to get the coronavirus. You know what I'm saying? The AIDS, HIV, Mark, I have to be doing some risky behaviors to get that.
What was cow flu disease? These are all spell-borne diseases. I don't disagree with any of that. I'm not here to fight with you. I'm here to tell you we will come together one way or another. All right.
Facts.
My last thing. All right. So I want to sit there and tell y'all on another point, a down low point. I hope you don't have that many people in the chat right now. But if you're a felon, you can always buy bullets and give them out to other folks, right? If you're a female, you can buy bullets for your people. So stop with all that nonsense about bullets. All right?
I appreciate that, fam. I appreciate that.
Yeah, because we act like we can't be a part of the movement. Yeah, you can. You can go down to the store and go get some. Why do you act like you have to be so interactive in the combat when you're interacting with the combat by supplies?
Fam, there's this fight. On the greater topic of white supremacy, this fight is so broad that there's literally a place for everybody who wants to fight. For everything you want to do. Seriously.
Yeah, that's what made me so mad, because I was sitting there listening to people. No, that's not your mission. That's not what you do. You got medics. You said it before. There are suppliers who provide for those. So you provide what? You provide the water. You provide the tourniquets. You provide the bullets. If I met a chick right now,
mm-hmm.
and she had ammo up the wall, yin-yangs in and out, right? And she had calibers. We're a team. Not in terms of being a team of, boyfriend and girlfriend, but I know where I got to go to get my stuff from to fight the mission, because her back sheet is like so clear and clean. And this one's so glad you have so many less followers at this point, because some of them women don't know I'm fat, I'm ugly. Well, that's what Kevin Samuels sit there and say, okay, that's fine. Okay, you are. Okay, fine. But you know what you supply us with? You have this, that, and the third.
Yep.
It's not so much about the shaking of the ass in the club and dropping.
Fam, you said it best when you said that we will all find a way to get together, one way or the other one. Like all these differences that black people swear up and down they got, they ain't gonna matter much in the larger scheme of things.
No, we don't have them. At the end of the day, the fight is the fight. I don't care if you strip and you make all that money. As long as you buy some bullets at the end of the day.
Facts.
I don't care.
Facts. I don't care. I'm right there with you. I don't care if you a stripper. You gotta roll in this fight. I don't care if you a crackhead. Nope. You gotta roll in this fight. Yeah, fam. I agree. I agree with you 100%. But Black man, I'm gonna start to wrap it up, fam, man. So I'm gonna let you have the last word.
Hey, man. My last point is that our fight is different from what they might think, but our love is collective in what we're doing.
You damn right. You damn right.
Hey, I'm out, y'all.
Hey, I appreciate you, brother, man. I want to thank you, as always, for keeping us on our square, you know what I'm saying? Because the greater fight ain't nowhere near over, no matter what happens with COVID. So, appreciate you, fam.
Peace.
Peace. Call from Black Man 903. Love that brother. So I'm not gonna take any more calls just yet because I want to address this situation that LaShawn is bringing up. So LaShawn is essentially saying that, hey, we got this COVID-19 vaccine, but we can't cure the cold or the flu. LaShawn, before I go and say anything on it, right, I want to ask you, why do you think that there's no vaccine for the common cold? So you're saying, yes, we don't have a vaccine for the common cold. We do have a vaccine for the coronavirus, right? For this particular coronavirus. Okay, cool. Why do you think we don't have a shot for the common cold? Why do you think that we don't have a cure for the common cold? Because remember, this vaccine is not a cure for coronavirus, right? It's not a cure for SARS-CoV-2. They never claimed that. They just says it protects people from severe and critical illness with COVID-19. So they're not claiming it's a cure. And I've never claimed it's a cure, but let's just go ahead and call it the cure for the coronavirus. Okay. Why do you believe, LaShawn, that they don't have a shot for the common cold? Because I actually looked into it, fam. If you trust me, I actually have some answers for you. You see what I'm saying? But I'd love to hear from you, LaShawn. Why do you think they don't have a shot for the common cold? Now, while I'm waiting on LaShawn's answer, fam, let me inform y'all something. What we refer to as the common cold, fam, is not one virus. It's not two viruses. It is 24 different viruses that circulate all over the globe. 24. Some of which are rhinoviruses and some of which are coronaviruses. Now, one interesting little side note before I continue is I've heard tell that the vaccines are actually producing antibodies for some of the coronaviruses that are the cause of the common cold too, which might be a nice little interesting side effect. Don't know how true that is, just throwing it out there. But 24 different viruses that cause the common cold. So they would have to develop a vaccine that's either a universal or a pan vaccine, meaning it's able to stop a whole host of different viruses. Or they would have to develop 24 different vaccines for the common cold. That's number one. Number two, anybody that tells me they know somebody that died from a cold, I don't even know what to say to that. I've had probably 1,000 colds since I've been alive in 48 years. I ain't never once died. Last I checked. Wait, let me check. I don't know nobody that's died from the cold. Cold is a nuisance. It's an annoyance. Makes you feel yucky. It sucks. Guess what? You live. That's the reason why we don't have any shot for the common cold, because they would have to develop a multitude of vaccines for the different rhinoviruses and the different coronaviruses that cause the cold. That's number one. And what about the flu? Well, LaShawn, one interesting thing I studied this last year was how viruses mutate. There are two types of mutations. One, there are stable mutations, and then there are unstable mutations. The influenza viruses that we run across for the most part, LaShawn, are very what they call leaky, meaning they change on a humbug. They're not stable viruses. The RNA of most influenza viruses is not that stable. There's constant change, if you will, right? Because everybody's talking about the coronavirus variants, but there is only one SARS-CoV-2. There's not a multitude of them, right? We don't have different strains of the coronavirus. There's only one. And it's had some mutations, some of which make it a little bit more transmissible, and so on and so forth. It's for as far as viruses go, SARS-CoV-2 is a very stable virus. And it makes it much easier to develop vaccines against a virus that doesn't change that much. But when you have influenza viri that change constantly, all the time, just constantly, willy-nilly, pieces of the RNA getting transcribed to this and switched to that, and from, guanine to this or to that, it makes it more difficult to be able to develop a vaccine that's effective enough to be able to stop it all. But here's the crazy part, LaShawn. For even all the changes that influenza viruses do, we still have a flu shot that can take into account the possible variants that are going to be circulating from year to year, and people can go and get that. And it's about 50 to 60% effective. It's a crapshoot when you get your flu shot. I've gotten flu shots, except for this year. I got flu shots the last 3 years running because about 3 years ago, my whole family had a bout of the flu that laid us all down. We was all sick as fuck. And we all committed after that to getting flu shots. Except for this year, I've gotten flu shots the last 3 years. Now, I haven't gotten the flu in those 3 years. Does it mean that I couldn't have got it? I still could have gotten the flu. Because I might have got infected with a strain of influenza that the vaccine doesn't cover. So even with all the changes that influenza has, we still have vaccines for influenza. And influenza kills a hell of a lot less people than what coronavirus does. LaShawn, in 2018, what was the number of deaths from flu in 2018? Take a guess. LaShawn, I feel you. There's a whole host of issues I have with the fact that there's a whole lot of diseases that we could treat better or even cure that we don't because of the profit motive, LaShawn. But what the hell does that have to do with the development of the coronavirus vaccine? They were going to make money one way or another one. That's just the way it is. So I'm with you, LaShawn. If you're arguing that they should use this technology to be able to help a whole host of motherfuckers, yeah, I think they should. I think this technology has let the genie out of the bottle. And I think that the changes that are going to come from the new areas of research opened by mRNA is going to be fucking phenomenal. And they better at damn well spread that technology and the benefits of it to as many people as they can. But the fact is that the fact that they make money off of it doesn't say anything about anything else. And besides, LaShawn, it's not just the money. There's a whole lot of motherfuckers that without an acceptable number of therapeutics or Strong Flower, explain how I lose you, sis. Because I don't know what you mean by that. Yeah, COVID's a virus too. And I just explained to you it's not a virus. COVID is like 24 different viruses. So you're right. The common cold is one. Each time you get sick with a cold, you're getting sick with one of 24 different cold viruses. So it's not just one. And there are multiple strains of influenza, and we are getting closer to developing vaccines for as many strains of influenza as we can get. There's a whole lot of folk that's dying. That's true. And that's one great reason to develop a vaccine for the coronavirus. Because in America, we've had almost 600,000 deaths in 1 year. In 2018, we had 34,200 deaths from influenza. It's not even close. And we still have already made strides toward developing vaccines for influenza. How much more incentive do we have? CRU, how are you immune? Unless you already been infected with the coronavirus, fam. I'd like for you to explain that a little bit more. And I'm with you, Sister Sherry. There's a whole host of issues that I have with the medical and, with the pharmaceutical industry and shit like that. You won't ever get any argument from me on that. Thank you, Big That's real talk. mRNA technology is a game changer. Fam, I'm serious. Like, as a science head, boom. I'm hyphy. This is gonna open up whole new areas. Now, here's what I would like to see. So instead of us downing the fact that they got this new technology, you know what I'm saying? I would like to see us encouraging more black people to get into biology, to get into virology, to get more into public health, epidemiology, and so on and so forth. You sit here and say you don't trust white folks with our medications and this, that, and the third. Fine, CRU. Then why ain't you encouraging more black folk to get involved in biology? You a young cat, CRU. You do art. You smart as fuck too. So why don't you go to school, go ahead and drop a biology degree and get in there and shit? I would trust the medicine that my brother CRU came up with. You get in there and learn how to do, DNA and RNA recombination. You learn how to use reverse transcriptase and mRNA technology. You learn how to use CRISPR to develop stuff, and then you release it to the people. All these Negroes talking about, I don't trust a white man with our medicine. Then get your ass in there and develop medicine. If you think that we need different medicines or better medicines, or we need medicines that they ain't got their hands in, then you fucking help make it. You don't cut off the fact that the medicine that they developed is what we got. That doesn't make any fucking sense. We don't know anything about neutralizing antibodies and titers, titers, and we don't know anything about confidence intervals and how studies are conducted and shit like that. But we the first ones that got something to say about whether or not a medicine is good for black people or not. We don't even know enough. Most of us don't, I should say. All right, Sister Strongflower, I was addressing it because as I've recently, shared with some people. I don't know if you knew, but I recently received the first of the 2 shots for Pfizer for the coronavirus, and I've just been watching a lot of people talk, and I decided to address it again. But I decided to address it, sister, in the way that I address it. You feel me? Right? So that's why we're addressing it again. Trust me, Sister Strongflower, you won't hear any more about the coronavirus on my channel. You know what I'm saying? It is what it is. Right? But yeah, fam, that's all it is, right? Like, we need a new framework on how to properly assess risk, to gauge who are not authoritative, but knowledgeable and reputable sources, and so on and so forth, right? And we also... Oh, you know what? Hold on a second. I was going to take one more call, wasn't I? Give me a second. Caller from 301, it's your man, Mark Black. What's your name? Where you calling from? And what's on your mind? Hello, caller from 301.
What's happening, my brother?
Hey, Brother Elder Richard, how you doing, fam?
All right, my brother. Yeah, I've been napping on and off, but I got a chance to catch most of your most of your information tonight.
Yeah, this one's contentious, but you know me, I'm gonna say what I gotta say on it, right? And essentially, all I'm saying on it is that at this point, we got options, we got choices we didn't have before. I don't want to see anybody taking choices and options away from Black people. So that's where I'm at on the whole matter.
Yes, my brother, and you are to be highly appreciated for what you're doing.
Well, I thank you, brother.
I'm not gonna tarry long, but I'm gonna go to the scripture where it says that my people suffer because of the lack of knowledge.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we need the knowledge, and that's what you're bringing tonight. That's what you're bringing tonight, and it's highly appreciated from my end.
The only interest I got, Brother Elder, is seeing as many of my people prosper and live as possible. Any option, any choice we got to make that happen, I'm going to study it, learn about it, support it if I can support it.
Yes. The reason I've been vaccinated, now going on a month. I got my second shot.
Yes, sir.
I've been vaccinated for going on a month now. But the reason I came to in favor of the vaccine was, see, being in the military. When I was in the military, you are touched on this. When I was in the military, and it was when they had the flu, the swine flu and all of that. But when I was in the military, you didn't have any choice. They would line you up and they would just put that air rifle to your arm and say, "Don't move your arm," and they would shoot you with so much stuff you didn't know what you was getting.
Shit, I didn't get a choice. I was vaccinated with yellow fever, the plague, anthrax, and a whole bunch of other shit that I didn't even know the names of, like cholera, dysentery, like shit I hadn't even heard of. They vaccinated me for. I didn't get a say. They was like, "Line up, privates." Boom. Boom, boom.
So I came to the conclusion it couldn't probably be any worse. This vaccine probably couldn't be any worse than what they've inoculated and what they've injected me in. I said, well, I'm just going to take this because I don't know what all I got in my system from being in the military.
Brother Elder, I was thinking the same shit. Like the day of my appointment, I was thinking, damn, I've been vaccinated for pretty much every damn thing under the sun. Why am I tripping?
but I want to commend you, my brother. I said, like, I'm not gonna tarry long, but I like to go to some reference of scripture. But the knowledge that you're bringing, and the way that you putting it forth and so forth, is right on time. And so forth, and it's highly appreciated. Keep up the good work.
I will, brother.
Keep up the good work, and to my people, like the knowledge is what we need. We need the knowledge, and while we're getting the knowledge, we need to get some understanding too. We need to understand the knowledge that we're getting and so forth. But peace unto you, my brother.
Peace
love
to you as well, Brother Elder, man. I love you, man. Peace.
Yeah.
All right, fam. Last word from the Elder. That's the way I like to go out, man. So, fam, again, thank you all for indulging me. We need to be free from this demon-haunted world, fam, of all these ideas and all these things that keep us trapped without a framework to truly apprehend reality in a way that Black people need more than anybody else. I beg you, fam, check out Carl Sagan's book, The Demon Haunted World. I got it on audiobook. Matter of fact, as soon as I leave this broadcast, I'm going to listen to it. I've already read it in the past. I love audiobooks these days. So, but I just want to say, fam, I love you. You know what, CRU? Hey, it's all good, fam. Like I said, I just want you to have the options. At this particular point, it's an option. Whether you think it's one or not is immaterial. It is an option for you. You make the choices that you need to make. And I wish you all the best of health and luck and love and all that other stuff. It's not changing nothing. But fam, with that said, thank you all for participating with your brother on this fine Saturday. And until the next time, fam, as always, I'm going to wish you all love, peace, prosperity, and power. Real power to our people.